Today's episode of the Fully Inflated Football Podcast is brought to you by my friends at SeatGeek. If you are itching to go catch your favorite team play a game this football season, SeatGeek has got you covered. They have the best market competitive prices out there, the best user interface. Just look for the green dots on their seat map and you know you are getting the best bang for your buck. Their app is easy to use. They also give you imaging of what your seats are actually going to look like once you get there. You'll get the seats right there in the SeatGeek app, so you don't have to jump through email chains and different apps and have this stressful experience as you approach the gate. They make it nice and easy on you. And right now, if you use code TFG10 at checkout, you can save up to $20 on your next ticket purchase as well and support the show in the process. So that's code TFG10, and thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's episode.
All we've got to do now is to start pumping.
Welcome in, everybody, to the Week 2 recap episode of the Fully Inflated Football Podcast. I just want to thank all of you for your patience with me last week. I didn't get to a Week 1 review show coming out of our preseason deep dive series. I was starting to feel a little bit sick when those last two deep dives were coming up, and I think my body just kind of played good defense and pushed it aside until I was able to finish the series, and then I sat on my couch watching football all day Sunday, woke up Monday, and felt like hell. So I wasn't able to get to the podcast last week, but we are here now, and I am really excited to talk some football. We've got so much to talk about. A lot of people pinging me about, did you see this? What do you think of that? We're going to try and hit on as much of that as possible here today. I also want to say, just for my own sanity, I do have my phone. I'm going to keep a 10-minute timer on each game just to try to keep myself on schedule here, especially coming out of that deep dive series. I don't want to get too long-winded here. We're going to hit on a bunch of stuff. We've got a ton of notes, but I do want to keep the show moving at least a little bit and try to keep us within about 2.5 hours here today, which I think is good for a single week here. So let's go ahead and get started. We are going to begin recapping with the Super Bowl rematch between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. This game delivered. It was, at least if you're a fan of defensive games, but it delivered. The crowd noise was electric in Arrowhead, and this was a fun, tough, close football game. But let's start by talking about what happened on the Eagles side of things. And there's two sides to the coin here. I think there are things to nitpick about the style of offense that they're playing, really their inability to pass the football. But at the same time, I really do respect their overall approach to winning football games and just leaning into what it is that they do well. They really do have the most unique brand of football in the league right now. And it must just absolutely suck to go against this football team, and the Eagles know it, and they've built their entire game plan around it. And I'm not a boxing guy, but if I were, I imagine that playing against the Eagles, it's like taking a taking a featherweight fighter. Like I said, I'm not a boxing guy. I'm already messing up my terms, but it's like taking a featherweight fighter and asking them to go against a heavyweight, because there just aren't NFL rosters that are built with the physical talent that the Eagles have, and they know it. And like I said, especially offensively, they have just constructed this game plan around it, and they come out and complete one pass more than 5 yards down the line of scrimmage, but every single first and second down is either a run or a screen or like a slant to A.J. Brown, which even though you're passing the football, it's like, okay, go box out the 235-pound receiver that looks like a tight end. They demand so much physicality out of you. They have built this game plan to complement their defense and frankly, avoid having to win through the air with their passing game at all costs. It is protect the football. It is if we have to get 3-4 yards of play and then push our way to a first down, so be it. And they didn't have to stray from that this entire game in Arrowhead against the defending AFC champs. And we'll talk about the Chiefs. I know they're going through some stuff, but while it's not a flashy brand of football, And I do have questions of if you could force them out of this specific script of how to win games, if they could, be the best team in football. I don't know that you can necessarily force them out of this script because their run game is just so perfectly constructed. Their offensive line will smash you. You've got Saquon Barkley, you've got Jalen Hurts, and you have a guy like A.J. Brown to throw those slants to. So it's just going to be really, really difficult to actually beat this Eagles team, even if they might play in a lot of close games and it might not look as convincing as we might see from some of the other top dogs in the NFL. You have to raise the question of like, okay, yeah, the Packers look great, but can they actually match what the Eagles are demanding out of you? We're obviously going to find out, but it's definitely fascinating. I will say this, though. If they are going to live in this script and play the style that they're playing right now, they demand that their defense is elite and a continuation of what they were in the second half of last season, and they are. I mean, we get Jalen Carter back in this game, and it's just a reminder they are exceptional at all three levels. You've got a great D-line. I like getting Zadarius Smith back. Well, not back, but adding him to the mix here. We know these linebackers are amazing. Zach Bond is everywhere. And this secondary is insane. They've added Andrew Makuba to the mix. He was all over the field. Some worse plays to some better plays, but he's definitely making an impact out there. And they're just, an incredible roster, but this game was also a reminder that they are an elite roster, also with Vic Fangio. And Vic came out and just like, I don't remember Vic Fangio doing this too much. He was blitzing the crap out of Patrick Mahomes and out-scheming the Chiefs offense as well. So, they absolutely can sustain things defensively to live in this script and make things really hard on you. But I do want to say, if you're able to get them out of this game plan and force them to drop back and beat you through the air, I have beaten my concerns about Jalen Hurts and his ability to do that to death. I don't even really feel like talking about that here today, but there's some other aspects of this offense that don't look as good and as sharp as they did last year. First of all, is A.J. Brown, to me, looks out of shape. I don't know if this is wrong of me to say. I'm very curious what Eagles fans think of this. He looks even bigger than he did last year to me, and he looks very labored in his movements. I haven't heard of any injury for him, but if he's not explosive, that's taking an elite wide receiver out of the picture here and someone that Jalen Hurts can and has historically really leaned on in the passing game when they have to beat you through the air. So that's eye-opening to me. And then also Jordan Mailata, who was one of, if not the best tackles in the NFL last year in both phases. We really sung his praises in the Eagles deep dive. He's actually had some struggles in pass protection out the gate so far. And I had that feeling just having had watched the Eagles games. And then I went to go check the PFF pass blocking grade on him. And he's down right at 63.4, kind of right in that average rating. He's definitely giving up some pressures that have made things harder on Jalen Hurts, like not having those perfectly clean pockets for him to drop the ball down the field. So it's not just that Jalen Hurts can't really sit in the pocket and pick you apart with his arm. Like I said, I've voiced those concerns about him in the past, but maybe not having that quote-unquote super team around him. I think A.J. Brown and Mailata especially are two areas of this team to keep an eye on. Now let's shift our focus over to the Kansas City side of things here. And honestly, this just was not a surprising outcome for the Chiefs based on what we've said about them for years at this point. This is who the Chiefs have become, a team that needs to ride a thin margin of victory, an unexplosive offense. And the hope was, just as it was last year, frankly, that was going to change this year with an addition of athletic playmakers. And unfortunately, Xavier Worthy's hurt and Rashee Rice is suspended. So they've had to resort to Patrick Mahomes scrambling around, handing the ball off to Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. They just don't have the talent offensively right now, especially going against that Eagles defense. So it certainly was not a surprise to see the Chiefs offense struggle in this game. I think their defense deserves a lot of credit. Like I said, it is not easy to match the physicality of this Eagles team, and they did it about as much as you could ask. They did slow down the run. They didn't allow that kind of like back-breaking Saquon Barkley 50-yard touchdown that we kept seeing from the Eagles team last year, and they kept giving the offense chances, but they just didn't have the dynamism to counteract that. And then you throw in the fact that they had the Travis Kelce drop at the goal line. Like, you can't have that. Obviously, you can't make mistakes against the Eagles when they're making things so hard on you. And they come out in the second half and get stuffed in their own territory on, running like this weird, like triple I, like throwback formation that just went nowhere. So, it does feel like that Kansas City, schematically speaking too, just like isn't, maybe evolving as much as some other teams are. I don't want to throw shade at Andy Reid or anything like that, but things just aren't working for the Chiefs right now. I don't want to panic. I don't want to write them off. They had a chance to beat the defending Super Bowl champs here, and to be honest, they played them much tougher in this matchup than they did in the Super Bowl last year. So I'm not panicking about the Chiefs, but they just have a lot to figure out, and I do think getting Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice is going to solve a lot of their issues, but they certainly are not the perfect team right now that perfect is a big word, but you know what I'm saying here. So not stunned that the Chiefs ended up falling short in this one, but it was at least a respectable effort, and I'm glad we got a good battle in this Super Bowl rematch. So for our next game, let's discuss the shootout between the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. This is like a game of the year candidate, just the type of game that kind of makes you wish that there was some way to award the losing team in overtime something. Like, in hockey, if you lose in overtime, you at least get a point towards the standings. It was a bummer that, like, the Giants walk out of this with nothing because at least, they call it a moral victory where you do lose, but you walk out of it feeling a little bit better. This felt like a moral victory for the Giants, but unfortunately nothing to show for it in the standings. The Giants do fall to 0-2 here, but this game in the last minute of regulation saw 2 touchdowns and a field goal. Like that's how crazy this game was. But let's talk about Dallas' side of things with this one. I just got to praise Dak Prescott, man. Just honestly an MVP type of performance. We're going to raise some questions about the Giants defense not being as good as they need to be, but a big part of that was Dak just found answers consistently throughout this game. And he was under pressure. Like, this Giants D-line is going to get after it. And it's not like the Cowboys' pass protection is anything special. But he was just decisive, concise, accurate all day long, and completed a couple of really impressive big throws in big spots, not to mention a big scramble in overtime as well that set up the game-winning field goal. But, for the most part, I think it was his ability to protect the football, get the ball out accurately and on time to beat this pass rush. But like I said, a couple of big throws. He has a 2nd and 11 throw late in this game that I tweeted it out, but it's an opposite hash, 25-yard deep out, perfectly placed ball to CeeDee Lamb under pressure. They ended up getting roughing the passer on it, so it wouldn't have mattered if he completed it or not. But obviously you don't want to have to count on those penalties. And the process of that throw was incredible in a huge spot when, Dallas was trying to, keep up with the Giants at that point in the game. And then in overtime as well, right before he had that scramble, he again, under pressure, lays the ball over the middle of the field on a perfectly placed crossing route to George Pickens. So like he made some big time throws, but was just so methodical. With Joe Burrow missing the next 3 months, I feel pretty good saying that Dak Prescott is the most like profound field general style quarterback that we have in the game today. The closest thing to resembling that Tom Brady, Peyton Manning-esque player. But the fact that Dak has shown that he can elude some sacks and do some stuff with his feet too. Like, he's just playing at such a high level right now. We love to have fun talking about quarterback tiers and stuff, and I've kind of consistently established my tiers of where these quarterbacks land. I could absolutely see walking out of this season calling Dak Prescott a true tier 2 quarterback, kind of in that Matthew Stafford, Justin Herbert category. I think he's playing at that level right now. And I thought he was good week 1 as well, but he was even better this week. And if he's able to kind of take this very average Cowboys football team and collect wins like this, he very much and you know, if he can get this team to the playoffs is kind of where I was going with that. He very much could get into that tier 2 conversation for me. But also Javonte Williams looks outstanding for the Cowboys. I definitely questioned if he had any juice left in the tank, but he just looks healthy and like he did early in his career. That's just an incredible value for Dallas. A lot of explosive runs from him. So just to get something on the ground there, you know, contributions from him was a big deal in this game. And then, of course, Brandon Aubrey, the kicker, like he needs his love from this game too. He is just another debate we've had talking about quarterback tiers is who at their position is like bar none better than anybody else at that position. It's probably still Fred Warner, but dude, Brandon Aubrey is a weapon for this team to the point that I saw a tweet, someone suggesting like, does he get MVP talk? I think that's pretty crazy, but like, there's no way they win this game without Brandon Aubrey. I mean, to just drill the 64-yarder, and for Dallas to play that scenario out before half, where they know that they can trust their kicker to make a 65-yarder, it's just insane. So he's a legit weapon, and he deserves his love as well. But yeah, Dallas is a tough out. I think they're shown to be a very like kind of good middle of the road football team that just might, if they can win close games like this as the season goes on, just might sneak their head into the playoff mix. But let's talk about the Giants. Like I said, this was as close to a moral victory as you could possibly imagine. But they did have some issues in this game that they got to clean up as well. Like we'll talk about some of the good stuff they did, but dude, the lack of discipline from this team in the first half, it really hurt their chances. They had a couple of really items here that cost them 8 points in the first half of this game, by my math. So you have on one drive, James Hudson, right, the left tackle, he has 4 penalties in one drive. None more costly than a personal foul after Russ hits, I think it was Wan'Dale Robinson up the seam. He gets tackled at the 1-yard line. Hudson brings them back 15 yards, and they ended up having to settle for a field goal on that drive. So that was a 4-point difference there, assuming they could pound it in from the 1-yard line with Cam Scatabo. That looks so good. Got another note on him later. But later in the game, they have really good positioning defensively. They stop CeeDee Lamb on a tunnel screen, and Drew Phillips kind of slams CeeDee Lamb's head into the turf unnecessarily after the tackle, and they get a personal foul, automatic first down. So a 3rd and 9 turns 1st and goal. Dallas ends up getting a touchdown out of that. You can't just assume that they don't, move the chains on 3rd and 9, but that's a really tough area to convert that down with about 10 yards of space to convert a 3rd and 9. So that was another field goal turn touchdown. So that's an 8-point swing out of just unnecessary bullshit early in the game. You got to be more disciplined than that. And then also like the mental mistake of the end of game scenario, like to play that soft defense with 13 seconds left, like super familiar to the Bills-Chiefs debacle a few years ago, the 13-second drive or whatever. Same idea, like to not have the reverse awareness. Like we mentioned, Dallas knew that they only had to get, set them up for a 65-yard field goal. To not have the reverse awareness as the Giants to know who their kicker is, that you can't just play this squishy, like prevent defense and just allow this easy throw up the middle that sets up that field goal. Like that's another 3 points that definitely should have been avoided. So the Giants did not play smart in this game. But man, did they figure some stuff out offensively. Malik Neighbors, like he speaks for himself with his play, but he is just absolutely insane. Just torching Trayvon Diggs early in this game. He needs some love. He is definitely, at least off the eye test, man, breaking through into that elite tier of wide receivers for me. And then I mentioned it, but Cam Scatabo, just unbelievable. He seems to consistently break or truck that first man. He needs to get double the touches that he's getting. He just looks outstanding, like an absolute steal in the 4th round. I loved that draft pick, and he's like showing leadership, and he just is awesome. Like absolutely what this Giants team needed, a little bit more physicality to that side of the ball. Wan'Dale Robinson as well. I think after 2 years seemingly of reeling defenses in and having a, average depth of target of like 2 yards, and every week his stat line looks like 6 catches for 20 yards. They just made a little adjustment here and said, hey, Russ can throw the deep ball. Let's have Wan'Dale Robinson start stretching up the seam a little bit. And 3 times in this game, he gets open up the seam and showed a little bit of verticality to his game. He has the big touchdown. Like, I love that wrinkle, just getting more out of Wan'Dale Robinson, and all that's gonna do is open things up underneath for him as well. So he seems to be, breaking through a little bit more for what he is. And yeah, I mean, Russell Wilson, dude, like, deep ball go Burr. He played really well in this game until he didn't in overtime. Unfortunately, they never should have gotten to overtime with all the mental mistakes we talked about here. But yeah, Russ doesn't need to just heave the ball up like 15 yards away from Neighbors. Like, that was just so stupid, frankly. Like, really a blemish on an otherwise great performance from Russ. Just wild. Like, you've got Neighbors running a corner route against, I think it looked like cover 2 to me. I'd have to revisit the play, but he basically heaves it towards the middle of the field, towards the safety. Like, what are you doing? Like, at least put it towards the sideline, and like either Neighbors is going to get it or nobody's going to get it. Just bizarre. There's my timer. So right on cue there. Last note is just like Shane Bowen is on the hottest of seats for defensive coordinators. We talked about it in the Giants deep dive as well, but they have underperformed relative to their defensive talent for far too long, and it's time for them to get their act together on that side of the ball. Just too squishy defensively, not enough creativity to get the absolute most out of this pass rush. I just need to see more from Shane Bowen, because it really feels like the Giants offense is figuring some stuff out. They're going to get Andrew Thomas back this week. Theoretically, they should have an incredible defense with the roster base that they have and how much they've invested in that side of the ball. So I don't know that there is a coach in the league with a hotter seat right now than Shane Bowen. But that's going to do it on an excellent football game there. Let's go ahead and move on and talk about the Battle of the Horses. Denver at Indianapolis, a really close game in this one. The Colts end up winning off of field goal kicking at the end of this game. Denver misses one from Will Lutz. That allows Indy the opportunity to, get the ball and go and attempt a game-winning field goal. They miss it, but they end up calling leverage on the Denver Broncos for pushing down the long snapper. Indy gets another chance, and they make the game winner. So just one of those games that could have gone either way, came down to special teams at the end of the day. I will just make a quick comment on the leverage thing, because I know Broncos fans are really pissed about it. It was leverage. All I can ask for, and I've talked about this, I think, last year as well, I think we need to demand more consistency in how that penalty is called. Something to keep track of as the year goes on. Last year it was a mess. There was games decided by it both ways. Games that they would call it and revoke the field goal, and vice versa. Teams would see it not going called, go out and attempt it themselves, end up getting blocked kicks out of it and winning games off of it. I think my Green Bay Packers won a game when they're probably against the Bears, the blocked field goal against the Bears, game winner. I thought there was leverage on that call, and they didn't call it. So I think all you can do is demand consistency out of that, and it is frustrating for Denver, but it was leverage. It's like running a pick play on offense. Flirt with the rules at your own risk is kind of, I guess, the end of the story there. But let's talk about the Colts here. Indiana Jones, man, cue the music. Dun, 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 dun. They got to start playing that every time Daniel Jones gets a first down in Indianapolis. I love it. I love the nickname. Way better than Danny Dimes. But holy hell, dude, did the Colts make the right decision here? And I'm proud to say, I can hold my hand up and say I defended them. I feel like I was one of the only people I saw that was saying that the Colts aren't crazy for going with Daniel Jones over Anthony Richardson. I certainly saw what they were going for there, right? They are loaded with playmakers. I really do believe in the talent base there. Love the Tyler Warren draft pick there. But just the ability to kind of distribute the ball to these guys, and then to have the comfort within this offense to push the ball downfield as well. Some of it is like schemed up, play action stuff, kind of stretching the seam, but also something Shane Steichen was so good with Jalen Hurts in helping him kind of break through as a passer was, look, we're going to do so much to demand defenses to get into single high coverages. You're going to get those one-on-one looks on the perimeter. Let's have some plays where I can, with almost certainty, guarantee that you are going to get single high one-on-one looks to the outside. Take the deep shot. Like, just look at the safety, look him off, confirm single high real quick, and throw the deep shot. And we saw one of those to Alec Pierce in this game. And Alec Pierce, I've been saying it, like, super underrated player, one of the better deep threats in the league, frankly. And I didn't even, as much as I liked, the idea of Daniel Jones here, that was one thing I was like, I don't think they're going to be able to tap into Alec Pierce with Daniel Jones, who historically has been a really bad deep ball thrower. But that's maybe the biggest surprise from Daniel Jones, is not that he's attempting the deep throws or not that he's being efficient within this kind of spread style, point guard style offense that the Colts want to run, but the fact that he's like throwing dimes down the field. Week 1, week 2, he has shown like legit arm talent and accuracy on the deep ball that he's never shown in his career. And that's where Giants fans got to be just like, what the hell? Like, where was this for all this time? So he looks outstanding and like even better than you could have imagined. We'll see if he comes back to earth, but this was against a really good Broncos defense. And I had kind of said, like, okay, if he plays well, you don't want to extend him, you don't want to pay him. Man, he's playing at a level that we've never even conceived from Daniel Jones, frankly. And if this is who he is inside this system with Shane Steichen's offense, they've got their quarterback, man, in a similar idea of like a Baker Mayfield or a Sam Darnold. Different quarterbacks for sure, but really got to like what we're seeing there. And just so great for Shane Steichen to like pound the table and be like, no, like, I know what I'm doing, guys. Like, and I've always thought he has. He's had these 9-8 seasons with Gardner Minshew and Anthony Richardson, who's not shown to be a good quarterback in the NFL, and Joe Flacco. We see what Joe Flacco looks like in Indy right now. Shane Steichen has gotten the absolute most out of those guys. I love the way he's scheming up this offense, especially with Tyler Warren. Like, how respectable is that for him to go get his guy in the draft in Tyler Warren and then actually use him? Looking at you, Ben Johnson. But dude, like he is scheming up so many creative ways to get the ball into Tyler Warren's hands. And by the way, Warren looks just outstanding. Like, most people viewed him as a top 8 player in the draft or so, something close to like one of the best players in the draft, basically. He falls to the 15th pick because he's a tight end, but he's just an outstanding football player, man. He's got great hands. He's awesome after the catch. Good just overall ball skills and ability to kind of contort for catches and stuff. He's going to get better and better as a route runner and as a run blocker, but he's doing enough in those phases. Like, they're using him like a normal tight end, certainly, and he's winning in those ways, but also adding on top of that, like early in the game, they line him up as a fullback and he gets lost over the middle of the field and Daniel Jones hits him. They break him out for a tight end screen where he gets like a 12-yard reception on that. He got a carry in this game. I just love the way that they're tapping into Tyler Warren and all these playmakers as well. Josh Downs kind of broke through this week, running some excellent routes to help move the chains. 3rd and downs in Indianapolis. We mentioned the Alec Pierce deep ball. Like, everything is making sense on top of the run game making sense. And Jonathan Taylor, also a big part of this. He looks healthy, explosive, dynamic, you name it. Multiple huge receptions in this game on top of a nasty long run here too. So everything's working in Indianapolis. I don't have too much to say about their defense for this week. They had so many injuries this week. So we'll get to, Lou Anarumo and the defense at some point here as the podcast goes on, but it's all about the offense for me in Indianapolis right now. Let's talk about the Denver Broncos. It was not a horrible loss for them. Like I said, it could have gone either way. But I think to see the offense wake up is good to see. Like, Bo Nix was so bad week 1, but much better this week. The arm talent does look really good for me from Bo Nix, even though he struggled week 1. I tweeted out, I was like, does Bo Nix's arm look even stronger to you guys? Which was a takeaway I had from him in his rookie season as well. It feels like he just continues to add more velocity to his fastball. So something to keep an eye on there. But yeah, I thought the offense looked efficient. They really leaned into Troy Franklin in this game, eye-openingly so. What do you have? 9 targets, 8 receptions, 89 yards. He gets the big scramble drill reaction play with Bo Nix, where Bo is rolling left, and then Troy breaks up field, and then a really nice over-the-shoulder catch. And then they started giving him a bunch of like short to intermediate targets as well, showing up some run after catch ability, consistent hands. That's the big thing with him, is catch the damn football. He was doing that, and they were rewarding him with targets, and he was paying it back with production for this offense. So he's definitely, I think, going to continue to be a big part of this. What's interesting, though, is I like Marvin Mims, too, and I always felt like those two guys were both talented like options for this offense, but a little bit redundant in terms of skill sets. Marvin Mims has an awesome touchdown catch early in this game, too. So, if you want to talk about fantasy football, like, it's on the monitor, like, does Troy Franklin just kind of emerge as the leading target getter for a lot of the like gadget touches and crossing routes and the volume targets that are going to come out of this offense? Or does Mims kind of punch back and say, no, I also can do this stuff? So like, it's a good problem for Denver to have, but it will be fascinating to see how that target share plays out. So like, I think the passing game's working. The run game is, it's so right now. Like they're not really getting the RJ Harvey impact, I think, as a second round pick there. J.K. Dobbins looks okay. The run blocking looks okay. But overall, like I think you're feeling okay about Denver. You're walking out of this 1-1. You lost a tough road game that could have gone either way. Tough day for the defense. I did say in this game preview that this is theoretically a tough matchup for Denver with the style of defense that they like to play, because they love to blitz, and that, easy outlets to guys like Josh Downs and Tyler Warren and a good run game from Jonathan Taylor can certainly pose problems to a Vance Joseph style of defense. And I think we saw that here. So I'm certainly not panicking about Denver's defense, but you expect better from them moving forward. So let's go ahead and move on. And this is where I have my kind of run of primetime games, starting with Sunday Night Football, actually. So this was Atlanta at Minnesota in a devastating home debut for the Vikings, the worst home debut in US Bank Stadium history, going back about 8 years at this point. Just a gut punch to Vikings fans, but Atlanta stole the show, and we're going to start with Atlanta here. Just is as good of a night from a rookie draft class as you could possibly imagine, and nobody needed that more than Terry Fontenot, right? That's the Falcons GM's name. I always get like him and the old Titans GM that got fired and the Cardinals GM all kind of mixed up. But yeah, Terry Fontenot is the Falcons GM. And nobody needed that more than him, because he's been kind of on the hot seat, hasn't had the best drafts, but Jesus, to come out in this game, prime time, week 2, like, at risk of falling to 0-2, and have your rookie class that they were aggressive, right? Remember, they traded their first round pick in this upcoming year's draft to get back into the first round and double dip on pass rushers. And both of those first round pass rushers have impactful sacks in this game. James Pierce just has a great night. Jalen Walker, a little more quiet, but did have one just awesome sack, beating the backup left tackle on, I think it was play action, but just really nice swipe move, shows the bend and the acceleration, finishes the job. So, you get the impact from those rookie pass rushers, and then from your mid-round picks as well. One of the underrated aspects of that Falcons trade up, and the biggest reason I defended it for Atlanta, outside of the fact that their pass rush has just been historically bad for as long as I can remember watching football. So I understood being aggressive to finally fix this thing, but the value that they recouped. So they traded their second round pick and their first rounder next year to get the Rams late first and the Rams third rounder in this year's draft. So they take that third rounder that they got from the Rams and take Xavier Watts, who to me was a top 50 player in the draft. just completely stealing value back from that trade. And Xavier Watts has been awesome out the gate. He was great last week, was all over the field for them, helped keep that game close against the Bucks. And then this week he gets the pick in, it's kind of garbage time, a forced throw from JJ McCarthy at that point, but still a great beeline on the throw, and he's otherwise played like really well too. It's not just the pick. So just an incredible steal to get Xavier Watts. He's making an impact, rounding out that secondary. I think in a way that, Justin Simmons, I don't think you felt Justin Simmons' presence in 2 games, period, last year. You've already felt it twice from Xavier Watts. And then the foresight, too, from this whole staff, which I can only presume, like, Raheem Morris, maybe a little bit of Jeff Ulbrich, the whole defensive, conglomerate, if you will, for lack of a better term, deserves respect for finding the Billy Bowman in the 4th round and looking at a safety out of the Big 12 and saying, no, we're going to take him and make him a slot corner. Really good foresight there. I was really iffy on Billy Bowman as a prospect because I just, if he's going to be a safety, tackling issues can destroy your defense. Like, look at the Carolina Panthers last year. And if you're going to miss tackles from the deepest part of the field, it can be so costly. Whereas you make him a slot corner, and for one, like, his size, he's a very small player, right? So his size discrepancy, average to the position, as a slot corner is much closer to average than it would be as a safety, if that makes sense. So he's much less at a physical disadvantage as a slot corner than he would be as a safety. He's like what, 5'9", 175 pounds, right? It's tiny for a safety. And he missed like 27% of his tackles from the deep part of the field as a safety in college. But they have him in shorter areas. He's much closer in size to a slot corner. And I think his coverage translates better as a slot player too. Now, I know he got burnt by Jalen Nailor in the slot fade. He's got to be careful with that, getting burnt over the top. He's a young rookie, but other than that, he's been really sticky in coverage. You felt his presence around the line of scrimmage, even if he's not the biggest guy. Like, that's looking like a really good find. So 4 rookies added into this defense with the transition in defensive coordinator, which a tip of the cap to Falcons fans, like you were saying. No, Jimmy Lake is public enemy number 1. He's got to go. Things are going to be much better with Jeff Ulbrich. I was like, I'm not so sure. Raheem Morris is supposed to be the kind of defensive coach here. Is that just a scapegoat? Fire from Raheem Morris. So far, so good. Like, this looks like a much better schemed up defense. Their stunts are working. Their defensive line is winning so much better. Also, Brandon Dorlus making an impact as well. It's not just this year's rookie draft class, but so at least to get one of those day 2 dart throws from last year's draft to make an impact. Right now, Dorlus is doing that. Yeah, just this story of this game was all about the Falcons, their defense stepping up, and Raheem Morris kind of finally showing me something as a head coach, because I know it is, yes, Jeff Ulbrich's defense, but inevitably Raheem Morris is going to be in those meetings helping put together the overall concept for this defense, even if it's Ulbrich pushing the buttons. So both those guys together deserving credit there. As far as the Falcons offense goes, the only story for me out of this game is Bijan is insane. He, to me, looks like the best running back in the NFL today. He had 14 missed tackles forced in this game. He does everything. I don't really need to sit here and praise Bijan and all the things he's good at. You guys mostly saw it on Sunday Night Football there, but at least deserved a shout out. And then, people will want me to talk about Michael Penix, but I think he's been kind of a non-story so far for Atlanta. I think at some point he's going to have to, beat teams with his arm and show us more. I'm not saying this in a negative light. It's just he has an average depth of target of 6.9 this year, which is 29th out of 34 quarterbacks. He has 0 big-time throws and 0 turnover-worthy plays. They're just not asking much of Michael Penix right now because Bijan's been awesome. And I think that's totally fine. He's doing what is asked of him. Like I said, he's been a non-story so far. I don't have many takeaways for Michael Penix, but it's good that he's not sucking, right? So big win for Atlanta. As for Minnesota, complete opposite direction, right? This was a devastating loss. You got to talk about the elephant in the room with the Vikings, and it's just like JJ McCarthy just does not look ready. I don't think he necessarily like is a guaranteed bust, or like you certainly are not writing him off after 2 starts, and it's not all his fault. The offensive line is playing really bad right now. It's compounding to make this thing look like a disaster, but I think he is, generally speaking, hit or miss when pushing the ball downfield. He's holding the ball too long. He looks like a 22-year-old quarterback that's hardly had to beat teams in the drop back passing game, which is exactly what should have been expected out of JJ McCarthy, and why I do think you have to beg the question of, like, was this the right decision? And this is all like before the idea of him even getting hurt and missing some time here, which is only adding to this narrative. But I don't know, man. Like, they put all their eggs in this basket. The broadcast put that perfectly, and this roster was ready to go. They won 14 games last year. Sam Darnold continues to play really well in Seattle. Aaron Rodgers could have been an option for this team. Hell, bringing Daniel Jones back to at least kind of similar to what the Colts did with like Anthony Richardson. At least have a veteran in the building that you can turn to if things aren't ready. And maybe that'll prove to be Carson Wentz. I don't know, but it just is very unfortunate right now that JJ's not ready. And it is a reminder, like, yes, surrounding cast matters, coaching staff matters, but they're not really able to get the ball to Justin Jefferson right now. I think that's much more of a JJ McCarthy problem than anything else. The quarterback evaluation does still matter. It's not just, Kevin O'Connell will obviously figure this thing out. Like, I don't know, man. We got a long way to go in terms of who JJ McCarthy is going to be. But I think it's at least worth begging the question of if the Vikings did the right thing here, just putting all of their eggs in the McCarthy basket. But it is going to be interesting. Like, Carson Wentz is starting this week because McCarthy got hurt. So are we going to have Sam Darnold 2.0 here? Because Carson Wentz has physical talent. He's a guy that has played at a very high level once upon a time, but completely lost all his confidence. He gets to go out there against the Bengals defense this week. We'll see if like Darisaw comes back. We'll also see like how long JJ McCarthy is going to be injured. I think they said 2 to 4 weeks. So presumably that's 2 games here. My alarm's going off. We're running out of time for this game. But like, yeah, presumably we're going to get 2 starts from Carson Wentz. What happens if the Vikings go 2-0? Like, Jordan Addison comes back from the suspension next week. Carson Wentz is playing really well. If the Vikings are sitting there at 3-1 and Wentz is playing well, I don't know how you possibly go back to JJ McCarthy, and then we're kind of right back to the Sam Darnold conversation. It just seems almost predictable, right? At this point, but he obviously has had some issues with pocket presence and accuracy as well. So there's no guarantee that Wentz can play that well, but you can definitely see it setting up that way. It could get very fascinating. And then you're back to the same question again of like, do you put all your eggs in the McCarthy basket or do you extend Wentz? What do you do? Could get interesting here for sure. But we're putting the cart before the horse. Obviously, let's see how Wentz plays against Cincinnati this week. I don't have too much else to say about the Vikings defense. I think Flores continues to do what he can with this defense. They are dealing with a lot of injuries right now. But that side of the ball is not the problem for the Vikings right now. I think that much is very clear. So let's move on to the next primetime game here. Chargers at Raiders. Chargers get another big win on primetime. They climb to 2-0. They become the division favorites in the AFC West. That's definitely fascinating. That was one of my kind of hot takes this year, was that the Chiefs don't win this division, and it's certainly shaping up that way. I had it as the Broncos winning in that scenario. The Chargers are definitely impressing me this season for a couple of things. Number one, the defense just continues to be suffocating. They don't have star players, especially now with Khalil Mack getting injured, but they didn't miss a beat when Khalil Mack leaves this game early. But they play that top-down zone defense, but I said this in the power rankings, but it's worth repeating. I don't know that there's a team in the league that preaches and executes on the fundamentals as well as they do. It's communication, it's tackling, and it's playing fast and understanding your assignment. It is that personified watching this defense, and we've just seen a continuation of this. One of the biggest surprises of last year was how stable this defense was, and we saw it again here. They did it week 1, they did it again week 2 here against the Raiders. They just swarm you, and they are better than the sum of their parts. But some of these parts are starting to prove that they're players too, right? Like some of these guys from last year just continue to ball out. Tarheeb still looks like a star cornerback. Like he is trending towards that. He was outstanding in this game. Cam Hart continues to play well. Dion Henley continues to break through as one of the game's best young linebackers. Like they've got some dudes absolutely starting to play like superstars. And then similar to last year, like they started to fill in some of the depth issues with this defense last year with budget free agent additions and finding guys through the woodworks. And they're doing it again this year seemingly because Dante Jackson has been pretty solid in this system, which it's a very good scheme fit, playing that zone coverage. That's always where Dante Jackson's been at his best, kind of being an extension of the safety staff, just kind of reading the quarterback's eyes, using his acceleration and ball skills to break on plays. And then Deshaun Hand, very good, sneaky pickup. I question where that interior D-line was at after they lost Poona Ford. Their pro scouting goes out and finds another one. Deshaun Hand's just a very good fit for them. He's playing really well. So they just continue to have depth and a high floor defense that they play at a better they're better than the sum of their parts. And it's so impressive. Jesse Minter, I just can't imagine is going to be around much longer here. He is doing such a good job. But obviously it helps when Justin Herbert is reaching a new gear. I continue to be blown away by how he's playing this year. Anybody that's been around this channel knows I have been just begging for him to use his legs more, to show better show better pocket presence or pocket feel. Like, it obviously gets murky when there's no clear definition of what those things are. I've tried to better define it over the last year or so, but he has great pocket presence, right? Like he can sense pressure. He's awesome at avoiding sacks, getting rid of the ball, and oftentimes when the pressure does get in, he's good at using his feet to do something about it. But what I've always wanted to see more from him is like using his legs in more appropriate situations, like before it's too late a lot of the times, feeling out that space in the pocket, scrambling against man coverage. Just he's so great when he does get on the run, whether it's with his arm or as a scrambler. But I've consistently found myself screaming at my TV like, Herbert, run, like use your feet. Don't just stand there in the pocket all the time. And something has clicked with him where he's executing from the pocket at the incredible level that he's always been able to do, and adding on top of it. Like when the structure of the offense isn't there, he's adding more on top of it. And it's so fun to see. He's absolutely playing at an MVP level. He's playing at the level of an elite quarterback. And like, I'm totally open to the idea that if this is who Justin Herbert is now, as we've seen through 2 games, he is in tier 1. He is in there with the big 4. And that obviously just changes the outlook of how you think about this Chargers as a Super Bowl contender as well. So he absolutely deserves all of the praise he's been getting. And I love, too, the way mostly that they're scheming this offense. There were certainly some issues where it felt like they got too cute a couple of times. Like they get down to the goal line and they totally stall, like try to smash Hampton into or maybe it was Najee Harris. I can't remember, but they stall at the goal line, try to, run into a brick wall. A drive gets wasted there basically. And then they have a 4th down late in the game and they get too cute on the flip side where they like try to run the jet sweep and that looks like a disaster. So like there was some Greg Roman like play calling issues at the end of the game, but generally speaking, I think Greg Roman's doing an excellent job and just showing that he's always been known as a run scheme mastermind, but he's really good at scheming up play action as well. And we're seeing that. Like, I think the year of the Harbaugh of it all, the Greg Roman of it all. Oh, we drafted a running back 1st round. We took Joe Alt in the 1st round last year. Like, we're going to come out and punch you in the face. They've kind of been setting things up to force teams to respect that approach. And now they're saying, actually, we've got vertical threats now. Quentin Johnston has figured things out. We got Ladd McConkey fully broken out. Like, we got options. Now let's come out in heavy personnel on early downs, run our play fakes. We'll get Herbert plenty of time to throw because teams are trying to stop the run going east and west. And all of a sudden Herbert turns around and you've got these route combinations getting guys open down the field. And there's no one better in the league than Justin Herbert, I think, at consistently launching the deep ball. He's obviously got as good of an arm as, well, I mean, it's a top 3 arm in the league. Like, no way around it, but his deep ball accuracy is probably more consistent than anybody. Like, it's certainly more consistent than Mahomes. It's up, like, him and Josh Allen probably would be the debate there, but I certainly don't think he's any worse accuracy wise than Josh Allen. So they're just leaning into it, man, and it's killing teams right now. There's going to have to be an adjustment, but then we might see a shift back towards an effective run game with the Chargers. So I love the way that they're scheming things up on top of Herbert just playing at an exceptional level. And these playmakers as well, like all these guys deserve a shout out. Like they actually have weapons here. Keenan Allen is playing great. Ladd's in there doing lad things. Mentioned Quentin Johnston can catch now. Like they've got options. Now it's not all positive for the Chargers. Like Khalil Mack's going to miss a few weeks. That's going to sting. Like he's the closest thing to a superstar impact that they have on that defense. I know Derwin James is awesome. Diane Henley's, getting into the mix there, but it's different when that guy's a pass rusher. And, they're going to have to overcome that. Khalil Mack is really good, to say the least. But that does sting coming out of this one. But he should be able to get back at some point. I don't think they want to rush him back because, anytime a power rushing player like Khalil Mack is in a sling, like that can obviously impact his effectiveness. So you want to make sure he's full health when he does get back. I would take my time with that one. And then the only other like negative note I had coming out of this game, and we're spending most of our time on the Chargers here. We might have to go more than 10 minutes on this game, I guess. But Omarion Hampton doesn't quite look like you expected out the gate here. Just, I don't know if it's a vision thing or trusting the offense or just the acceleration isn't quite what we imagined. He doesn't look horrible, but you spent a first-round pick on a running back when you already have a Najee Harris. Like, your expectations change, and he clearly is not meeting those expectations. I'm not going to put the fumble on him. That was a crazy play by Max Crosby, but I don't know. I'm not writing him off, but certainly not getting the juice from him that you were hoping for in the ground game. But yeah, for the Raiders, I do think it's a night to kind of like burn the tape a little bit. I don't think you panic coming out of this game. You just kind of acknowledge where you struggled, try to improve on some things, and move on. Like, it was a really rough night for Geno Smith, like, especially accuracy-wise. Geno, generally speaking, is a very accurate passer. He does occasionally have these moments, though. Like, that just has led into the sort of overall inconsistent narrative on Geno. He does occasionally have these games where the ball's just sailing a little bit on him, and this was certainly one of those games, but even worse than we've seen. I don't think that's going to continue to be this bad, so you just kind of say, well, it was a rough night for Geno. I do trust that he will bounce back and be more on target, but against this style of defense where they play those zones and they kind of force you to like thread needles into these zone windows, he was missing the mark a bunch. So just a rough night for him. I also think it really hurt with Brock Bowers being hurt all week. He was questionable heading into the weekend. And, Bowers, as good as he is, if you're going to get the most out of Brock Bowers, it's a game plan thing, right? Like, we're going to have him in motion on this play. We're going to set up this. We're going to do play action here. We're going to play him at wide receiver on one snap, then move him into the slot, and then at fullback and tight end. Like, a big part of Brock Bowers is having the right game plan in place to maximize him. And clearly, like, this was more of we're putting together a game plan without him, and then if he's healthy, we'll drop him into that game plan. No, Brock Bowers is the game plan, and they weren't able to count on that in case he wasn't able to go this week. And then he also was out there in a brace and not 100%. So between Geno being super inaccurate and not really being able to count on Brock Bowers in this game, their offense obviously was not where they should be. Not to mention Jackson Powers Johnson was out in this game. I think their best run blocker. There's a lot of narrative coming out of this game about, Ashton Jeanty is nowhere to run out there. I think anybody watching the games would say Jeanty looks great. it's just there's only so much you can do when there's nowhere to go. It's like when Boise played against Penn State in the playoffs, right? Like that's kind of what he's running into right now. But like Jackson Powers Johnson being out in this game definitely hurt them too. So hopefully they can get him back. I would say he is their best run blocker along that offensive line. So that's a big one. And then like it's not just JPJ's out, but that means you have to go to Alex Kappa, who sucks as a run blocker. He sucks generally speaking, but if Kappa has historically been good at anything, it's been pass protection. He is not a good run blocker. So that was a big fall off. And then at the other guard spot, like Dylan Parham is struggling right now. I don't know that this is the right fit for him. I think Parham probably should be in more of that wide zone style run game as an undersized guard. They're running much more of a north and south style offense right now with Chip Kelly, and I just don't think that's a good fit for Parham. I do wonder if at some point, because Parham I think is in a contract year, I do wonder if at some point they go to the third round pick Caleb Rogers, who was a dickhead of a run blocker. So there could be some help on the way for the run blocking if Caleb Rogers can be a hit for them, if they get JPJ back. But like that to me was the problem for the Raiders. Their defense is tough and scrappy, and I love everything they've got going on that side of the ball. They kept them in this game. They made some big plays. Max Crosby forcing that fumble was insane. They get the stop down at the goal line. Like I don't question that they are squeezing every bit of juice they can out of that defense. But they need more support from the offense, as we saw week 1. So I'm not panicking about the Raiders. Kind of a burn the tape game, and hopefully things will get better. If not, we'll have to have some more serious conversations about them. But let's reset the timer here, because we definitely went more than 10 minutes on that one, which is fine. It's not the end of the world. It's just kind of a general thing I'm doing here to try to keep myself on track with this show. But we've got another primetime game here, the first Monday night game, Houston at Tampa Bay. Another just excellent primetime match in the doubleheader here. So Tampa Bay squeezes this one out in the end. A game that felt like it could have gone either way for the majority of this game, frankly, even though Houston's offense was struggling as much as they were. But Baker Mayfield, the story of this game, absolutely. I mean, that was an MVP type of performance. That was essentially all him on the road against an elite or at least a damn near great defense, damn near elite, definitely great defense. Baker out there, like, without really much help. I mean, the offensive line lost both tackles in this game against, at worst, the third best edge duo in the league. The pass rush was hitting home. And it's not like Emeka Egbuka really played well in this game, frankly. Like, he didn't. I know he had the touchdown, but it was a walk-in like screen that was perfectly well schemed and blocked up. The big throw from Baker bounced off of Egbuka's hands in this one. Thought Egbuka could have caught that, and Mike Evans was in hell against Derek Stingley. So, I like those wide receivers, but what I'm trying to say is, like, this was Baker truly putting this offense on his back, and it came down to like a game-winning drive opportunity where it was more of the same, and it was just like, Jesus, like that was an insane moment for Baker Mayfield to win that game. His shoulders must be sore after this one, and it's a reminder, like, hey, this dude was the number 1 overall pick in a very talented quarterback draft, and he's got a lot of like creativity and it factor about him as a player. He's playing with so much confidence right now. Talk about another quarterback that, hey, maybe we do need to open the door for maybe Baker is more of that tier 2 type of quarterback as well. Like we said with Dak Prescott, totally open to that idea. My favorite tweet about Baker Mayfield, I think it's an older tweet, but it's so true. It's like, it's pretty crazy. And I'm sorry for not giving proper credit to whoever this person was. But anyway, it's pretty crazy that we consider Baker Mayfield this incredible comeback story when all he did was come back from being a Cleveland Brown. And it's so true. But it's a reminder that, like, Baker might have just always been an amazing quarterback if he went to the right spot. But he's persevered, and he's landed in just the perfect spot here in Tampa. So he deserves all of the flowers really for the Bucs offense in this game. Other than Bucky Irving, who broke 1 million tackles in this game, he was incredible. Bucky is that dude as well. But I do think the Bucs defense as well deserves credit. Todd Bowles had himself a night. This was a big Todd Bowles game. You kind of forget that this is a team with a defensive head coach, and a defensive head coach that has a lot of accolades in Todd Bowles, but we don't spend a lot of time giving him credit and talking about him on that side of the ball. But he knew going into this game the Texans' biggest weakness is their pass protection and their inability to pick up stunts and blitzes. And Todd Bowles had a night scheming that group up, just had CJ Stroud in hell. So Todd Bowles deserves his credit coming out of this game. And then the last talking point I have on the Bucs here is Servasia Dennis, breakout candidate, year 3 linebacker. I'm a big fan of Servasia Dennis. He is having probably the most polarizing season that any player is having right now. He has been an elite run defender for this Bucs team, but he's been just getting annihilated in coverage out the gate. And I knew that after watching the tape from these first 2 games on the Bucs. I go and check his PFF grade, 89 run defense grade, one of the best among all linebackers in football, but a 26.3 coverage grade. That is absurdly low. That is absurdly low, and it shows. So they got to find a way to either get him to figure out the coverage side of things, or just take him off the field on third downs. They got to get that figured out. He has basically single-handedly been the only issue with their defense right now that is otherwise playing really well. So, Tampa climbs to 2-0. It's no small deal. I mean, we said it going in, basically, can they go 2-2 without Tristan Wirfs and without Chris Godwin, and then get those guys back and really hit the ground running? Well, they're 2-0. They play the Jets this week in Tampa, probably going to be 3-0. I mean, Tampa absolutely is throwing their ring into Super Bowl, future Super Bowl contention, because they're not at their best right now, right? They're still going to add some talent and figure some stuff out here. So I really like the direction Tampa's going in, especially with Baker playing at this level. Now, as for the Houston Texans, there's just only one thing to really say here, and they have to figure out their pass protection. We said it going in, and we're saying it coming out of week 2. They have to prove that all of the changeup that they had, basically deleting their offensive line and bringing in this slap job, motley crew collection of talent, that they can pick up stunts, recognize blitzes, and block for CJ Stroud. There is not a bigger singular pressing issue for a single team in the NFL, I don't think, at least outside of quarterback, right? Where if the Texans can just figure out how to block, they're going to be just fine. And they almost won this game. It's not like the Texans aren't competitive right now, right? They were competitive last week against the Rams too, but they can't rely on their passing game right now with their inability to pick up stunts. And on the plus side, they have gone against, if I had to make a short list of the defensive coordinators that are best at scheming you up with stunts, twists, blitzes, games up front, certainly coming out of last year, I would have said Chris Shula, probably Flores makes that list. Todd Bowles is on that short list, though, of the top 3 to 5 guys in that sense. They've faced 2 of those, right, in Chris Shula and Todd Bowles. So it's not going to be quite as much hell every week trying to figure out how to pick everybody up. Those are 2 tough matchups out the gate for Houston. So I do think they'll settle back down. But the other thing with Houston, my takeaway coming out of this game, you got to have questions about Nick Caley as the offensive coordinator and if he's any better than Bobby Slowick was. And I don't need to get into should they have fired Bobby Slowick? I don't know the answer to that. I think Slowick was excellent year 1 and pretty bad year 2. But Nick Caley is showing you nothing right now. And for one, this game, the Texans should have won this game if they just are able to convert at the goal line, where they had, it was either first and goal at the 1 or second and goal at the 1, but they were unable to get the ball into the end zone from the 1-yard line, which obviously would have been the deciding factor in this game. But not just that, like they get the go-ahead touchdown with however much time was left before they give the ball back to Baker in the game-winning drive situation, and they go for 2 to make it a 7-point game, and they just like completely botched the 2-point call, and it wasn't even close. So like for me, those are the moments at the goal line, 2 points. You got to have more of a plan than just running into brick walls and running like play action rollouts on 4th down where you're shrinking the field. It's like we got to be more creative than that. But I also question like some of the player usage stuff already with Nick Caley. You're telling me 0 targets on 15 slot snaps from Jalen Noel in a game where Christian Kirk is out and a game where your offensive line is getting murdered, and you see what Jalen Noel is doing on kick returns where the Bucs couldn't tackle this dude. You are seething, screaming to try and find anybody to help you in this passing game, not named Nico Collins, who made it another absurd catch in this game, by the way. Nico is truly an elite wide receiver, if there's any doubt of that left. But anyway, to not give a single target to Jalen Noel in this game while you're also playing Justin Watson 20 slot snaps, what are we doing here, man? Like, you don't have to ask Jalen Noel to run the tough routes. Let's just get him a jet sweep, put the ball into his hands, like just to kickstart the offense. And that's how you counter a lot of this blitzing stuff, you guys, is tunnel screens and getting the ball out into space. And once you hit that, then Todd Bowles is going to hesitate a little bit more on sending the heat. So it's all complimentary. Really questioning the Texans' play calling right now. It's turning into a very very reminiscent scenario to what ran Brian Flores out of Miami, was not being able to get the play calling right on that side of the ball. And right now, that's been a huge weakness for the DeMeco Ryans regime in Houston. Otherwise, though, like the Texans' defense mostly looks the part. It's definitely a bummer that they couldn't slam the door shut. A lot of it was Baker just making plays, but they had opportunities to put this game away, and they fall short. Definitely a bummer from a defense that they're frankly counting on to be an elite unit if they're going to go far this year. So just a little bit porous towards the sidelines and over the middle of the field. Got to tackle better and take stuff away better. And you want to see a little bit more from the defense outside of those 2 edge rushers, I think. Although Derek Stingley, like, also was unbelievable. Like, he is so good. He basically neutralized Mike Evans in this game. But yeah, very fun battle. Great news for Tampa. I don't think it's panic time for Houston. I still like them, but it's go time now. Like they gotta find some solutions to this offensive line. And the frustrating thing is I don't think it's necessarily a talent problem. Like they don't have great talent, don't get me wrong. But the biggest issue is communication and picking up schemes, pass rushing schemes. So they got to get that figured out. All right, let's get to our final primetime game of the week. We got to go back to Thursday Night Football. Always feels like forever ago when we recap Thursday Night Football. But Green Bay just dominating Washington in this game. A game that really wasn't as close as the score suggested. Washington had some garbage time opportunities late in this game, but this was all Green Bay, right? Like it reflecting on their start to the season, it's almost too good to be true, right? Like obviously it's too good to be true to go acquire Micah Parsons a week before the season starts. That's anybody's dream, any coach, fan, teammate's dream is to get that. And he's been every bit as good as advertised. He is absolutely, I don't know if he's the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year, but he's certainly playing like a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, as you would expect. But it's the force multiplying effect that he brings, the slides towards him, the holding calls, it's everything. But I also think like we're seeing, I think it's probably pretty fair to say at this point, I think we're seeing that even if Green Bay didn't get Micah Parsons, I think this defense was prepared to take a step forward. Like everything looks so good on that side of the ball that I think they had a good offseason of development. And we're seeing again that Jeff Hafley is that dude as a defensive coach. And you're not just getting the Micah Parsons factor, you're getting that on top of Devontae Wyatt looks like he's taken a step. He was awesome in this game. Lucas Van Ness looks like he took that big step. He was like the big wild card factor for that front was, can he take that big year 3 leap that you're counting on? Even someone down the board a little bit in a Colby Wooden, who was drafted as a hybrid end. He's now kind of a full-time interior player, very much a developmental guy. Him in year 3 seems to be kind of figuring out the defensive tackle position. He keeps showing up. And then that's just the front. Like, they're hitting green lights with their front 4. These linebackers look amazing. Like, Edgerrin Cooper is just on a skyrocket trajectory. But Quay Walker, I will continue to say this, like, as hard as I was on that draft pick, this was always going to be set up to be like the best Quay Walker year. 3 years of NFL development. That's kind of the time it takes for a linebacker to get groomed. He struggled early on, wouldn't make that pick again, but at least you're now set to reap the benefits of that pick where he does have the athletic traits. He's now got a second year in this defense and all these years of NFL development. He looks really good and comfortable out there. So, like, you have arguably the best linebacker duo in the NFL. Like, I don't think that's crazy. It's up there. You can certainly debate it with like Philadelphia or maybe New Orleans. But as we know, like Baltimore and San Francisco don't really have those big name number 2 linebacker types. So anyway, you're up there. You're in the top 5 of linebacker duos at worst. With how these guys are playing. And then the secondary is, you're hitting green lights with these guys too. Like, everybody looks good. Keyshawn Nixon had what will probably go down as one of the best performances, individual game performances of a corner this season. He has 4 pass breakups on 5 targets, allowing 0 receptions. Like, it doesn't get any better than that. And he didn't miss any tackles. So, like, that's literally a perfect day for an outside corner. And I haven't been a big Keyshawn Nixon guy, but at least, like, he has shown, and I've talked about this, he's been better as an outside corner than a slot corner. And he looks like money out there. We know he's a good athlete because of his kick return stuff, and it's translating right now. So, like, that's a huge surprise. Carrington Valentine's been awesome as the other outside corner. I've always liked Carrington Valentine, super young guy. Now in, time flies. This is year 3 for him. I'm not crazy. But he was always like someone that had a really high upside as an outside corner, never should have gone as late in the draft as he did. And he's been really good. Year 2, learning as a slot corner, you're seeing really good play from Javon Bullard in the slot. We know these safeties are good. So, like, their secondary, like, they're playing well. And obviously having the great pass rush is going to make things way easier. But these guys are making plays too. So, it's pretty crazy the amount of green lights that the Packers defense is hitting. And then offensively for the Packers too, like Jordan Love, healthy, total comfort in the offense. He's been awesome outside of a couple of blemishes, right? Like, he had a couple of misfires, unfortunately both to Matthew Golden. Matthew Golden's getting a lot of heat. I think he's going to be just fine, you guys. He's open. Love just has to hit him. There hasn't been any bad from Matthew Golden. He's running great routes. I think the production will come for him. But yeah, Jordan Love misfired on a couple throws to Golden in this game, and other than that, he was perfect basically. And then, like, week 1, he was basically perfect, other than a series of back-to-back plays where he should have thrown a pick and then did throw a pick that got called back for a penalty that had nothing to do with the play basically. But Jordan Love, like 98% of the time, is playing at a really high level. And all of these, like, question marks at wide receiver as well. Like, it's just like all the areas on the Packers are like, I'm not so sure where, how good are they going to be there? The D-line, the secondary, and the receiver is like all these guys. Dontavion Wicks, who couldn't catch a football last year. Romeo Doubs is healthy, and he's been playing great. Even freaking like Luke Musgrave is playing well. It's crazy the amount of things that are looking good coming out of the offseason for Green Bay. This is the youngest roster in the league. All these guys are like kind of heading into their prime. It feels so good to be, like, too good to be true for Green Bay. I worry that, are they peaking too early? But I don't know, man. Like, they're not even at full strength. Like, Reed left this game early. He'll be back in a few months. They just extended Christian Watson, and like they think he might be back in a few weeks. They're without Zach Tom in this game. They're without Aaron Banks, who I'm not the biggest Aaron Banks guy, but they paid him $19 million. Nate Hobbs isn't even like full go yet. Like they might just be getting started here. So Green Bay is scary right now, and I think everybody agrees. It's not just me saying that. Now for Washington, like tough game, like short week, going on the road against how good things are looking for Green Bay. It's not going to be easy for anybody. We saw that with Detroit last week. But the main thing for me on Washington is they cannot afford a Jaden Daniels sophomore slump season, like kind of CJ Stroud from last year. I've defended CJ Stroud a little bit from last year just because the pass protection was so bad. But like the first 2 weeks have not been pretty from Jaden Daniels. I having rewatched the week 1 game, I think it was fine, but he missed a lot of throws week 1. It was eye-opening. It was like, really, like I've said if there's a weakness on Jaden Daniels, it's the occasional like overthrow over the middle of the field or like maybe missing the deep ball to Terry McLaurin. But generally speaking, it hasn't really been an impact. But week 1, it was like, man, he missed the mark on like 4 or 5 throws. And then this week, he didn't have any answers. And that's the first time we've seen, I think, from a processing and decision-making, Jaden Daniels not be able to problem solve. And that was the big thing with him last year. It was like, whatever you're able to do to him, when he's pressured, he knows where to go with the ball. If he's not pressured, he'll pick you apart. Like, not so much this week. Like, he just, I mean, he had some garbage time production at the end, but wasn't able to kind of tap into Terry McLaurin, wasn't able to make tight window throws, wasn't seeing the field all that well. So I'm certainly not panicking on Jaden Daniels yet, but if Washington wants to be a playoff team, like they just don't have the roster talent for Jaden Daniels to just be the 16th best quarterback in the league this year. Like he has to be. Last year he played at a top 5 level. They need a great Jaden Daniels out there, and so far that hasn't been the case. Like defensively, they're another one of these defenses that they're doing some good stuff. They're better than the sum of their parts, but they're not a great defense. And offensively, it's like, all right, yeah, like you got Terry McLaurin, you got Deebo Samuel, yeah, you added Laramie Tunsil, but it's not a great offensive line. Like they're a very average roster that needs to be elevated by the play of their quarterback. So that's really my only takeaway here. I'm not really going to bang on them for losing this game because Green Bay is just screaming hot right now. All right, I'm going to take a quick break, and then we will come back with Jags Bengals. All right, let's take a page out of Bill Belichick's playbook and move on to Cincinnati. Bengals fans, I'm so deeply sorry. I don't know if you're even watching NFL content this week. It's just no bigger devastating thing than the Joe Burrow injury, but we do have a game to react to here, and the Bengals did actually win this one on the shoulders of Jake Browning at the end of it with a 90-yard game-winning drive by Jake Browning. Really incredible. And I will start there with Browning. Like, I know that it feels like the season's over if you're a Bengals fan right now. And it in all likelihood, it is. But I don't think it's a guarantee because I think Jake Browning showed us in this game and reminded us in this game that he's a very competent backup, even if he's going to make mistakes, right? Like he is absolutely a gunslinging, has a gunslinging mentality. He had a pair of interceptions in this game where, the first one, his eyes get bigger than his stomach or his arm. In this case, he's rolling right and he attempts a throw that, like, yeah, if you're Josh Allen, you might be able to lob it over and get the distance on that throw to squeeze it in over the top of the second level of the defense, but he didn't, and it got picked. And then he had another one that was just a bad read and a bad throw to Devin Lloyd. If he leads the receiver and puts more touch on it, like maybe he could have made the read look right. But again, he just doesn't have the correct arm talent to make some of these throws. So, like, he's going to be imperfect, but generally speaking, like, he has full control of this offense. Like, he has been within this Zach Taylor offense for years at this point. We saw him in 2023 step in, and, like, they won some games with him. So in terms of like not having to dial back the playbook too much. In fact, I think Zach Taylor shows better play calling when Jake Browning is in there because he needs to. Whereas Joe Burrow is able to kind of come in and do more stuff at the line and be more of that, surgeon field general type. So in some ways, the play calling improves with him, I think. But like he also can make some throws. Like he hits a beautiful deep out in this game. He has the touch pass touchdown to T. Higgins. Like this isn't some physically inadequate quarterback. Like we're past the days of the backup QB coming in and the guy just can't throw the football. Like 20 years ago, we saw a lot of that. It's like, no, Jake Browning was like a highly touted, like name in college. Like he's got a pretty solid arm. He can run the offense. It's just not going to be perfect. Your margin for error is reduced. You're going to lose some games because of him making a few too many mistakes in certain games. But it's not over. If the Bengals can just go 500 or even sub 500, I talked about this in the power rankings, there's a world where they can come out of this, get Joe Burrow back in the middle of December, and you're sitting there at 7-6 or 8-7 or that might be a little bit closer to the end of the season, but 500 or a game or two above 500, the season is not over. You know what I'm saying? So he also has the 90-yard like game-winning touchdown drive too. Like he's comfortable back there. It's just he's aggressive and gonna have some turnovers in there. So it's not all over. Also, you don't just the other note from the offense I have here is it might not all be over because Mitchell Tinsley is the GOAT. Joking but not joking. I think this team has been searching for another guy to step up in this wide receiver room, and like Yosavas has had some flashes. Jermaine Burton has been mostly bad and off the field, unreliable. But I called my shot on Mitchell Tinsley. I was like, look out for this dude. Like he was a really good college prospect. I thought Washington just didn't see the talent. They never really gave him an opportunity. He gets an opportunity here. One of the better catches of the season. Beautiful over the shoulder, one-handed grab, gets his feet in, just insane. And he can play inside and out. He's a really nice third wide receiver weapon for them. So they've got plenty of guys for Jake Browning to throw to here. You got two tight ends with Fant and Fant and Gesicki. And the Bengals defense has like settled down too. They're not great. I don't think they were ever going to be great this year, but they're just like, they're getting stuff from Dax Hill. I think they're more on the same page and healthy in the secondary. I like adding Demetrius Knight in there. Trey Hendrickson is like taking over games up front. It's just, thank God they got him back, man. Like, especially now when they're going to have to lean on their defense more. He killed 2 drives in this game. He had a beautiful pressure, forced Trevor to get rid of it early, which led to an interception early in the game in the red zone. And then he killed a 3rd and 2 earlier where he hits Trevor early that throws the pass off. And then just for good measure, with 17 seconds left, he gets the dagger sack as well. So, like, thank God they have Trey Hendrickson back. But, yeah, the Bengals actually ended up winning this game, even though it feels like they lost. As for Jacksonville, definitely a blown opportunity for them to start 2-0. But I do think the Jags are, like, showing some toughness, and it seems like they're building something here with Liam Cohen, the new coach. They feel like a tougher team. They're running the ball so much better. I love the direction of the team to trade away Tank Bigsby just to kind of clarify that room where Travis Etienne's playing well. You're kind of rewarding him as he's been around here. Like, you're kind of rewarding him with opportunities to shine and get paid. And I think he is paying it back to them with some really tough runs. And then you're opening the door for a Byshell Tootin, who's just a much more talented player than Tank Bigsby. Like, I don't think Tank Bigsby's horrible, but like, we know what he is. He's a tough straight line runner, backup running back. Dude, Byshell Tootin looks awesome, man. He's breaking tackles. I think he's showing better vision than Travis Etienne. Like he had a couple runs where he just sees run lanes, just like really impressive in that regard. He shrugged off Shamar Stewart in the backfield and turned what should have been a TFL into a 5-yard gain. So like, I love that duo of those two guys. Just a lot of juice and explosiveness. And defensively, they're showing some toughness to me too. I think their D-line is playing well. So you're getting some good like physicality out of this Jags team that you've been earning for. Now, what I'm really interested to track here is what happens with this Jags passing game. It is all over the place right now. You've got some good, like you've got Dyami Brown, really looks good outside. He did have one drop though, so like even him kind of, a little bit all over the place, but mostly good. Like Dyami Brown, Parker Washington looks good. Like some aspects of this passing game are thumbs up. Other aspects, it's like, what the hell is going on here? Like Trevor Lawrence himself has been all over the place. I think he was better in this game, but still not great. He had especially like the really bad interception early in the red zone. His pocket presence is really bad, and it's getting hit while he's thrown. It's not drifting away from throws, just as we saw with that interception. But it's also the other side of things of like knowing when to use your feet. It comes right back to the Justin Herbert stuff that we talked about, that he's showing to be much better at this year. But like there's a 3rd and 2 late in this game. There's like 6 minutes left. The Jags are driving. They have an opportunity to put this game away late. But right before the 90-yard Jake Browning drive. There's a 3rd and 2 from like the 45-yard line. And he ends up throwing a deep corner route from a clean pocket into double coverage. It's like, really? Like that's the look you're going with in that situation. It was a really just awful look. Like, dude, he could have easily just stepped up, picked up the first down, kept the clock running, and put the game away. Instead, you're making a bad read on a corner route from a clean platform. Like, what the fuck are we doing, Trevor? His inconsistency is maddening. So, like, him paired with what we're seeing from Brian Thomas Jr. right now is eye-opening. He's in his head right now. He takes a business decision call to not go after a ball over the middle of the field. That leads to an interception. We could get into the debate on whether that's okay or not. I think generally speaking, you want to see him at least do something to stop that pass from getting picked off over the middle of the field. But he had a brutal drop down at the red zone. He was struggling to play through contact in this game. There was another play where he catches a slant and then just goes down immediately instead of trying to do something after the catch. Like, he, to me, is in his head about physical contact right now. And I don't know if, when, and how that improves. So that's something to keep track of. And then the whole Travis Hunter thing. Like, it's way too early to write this off. Obviously, it's week 2. But it's at least worth bringing up when you spent the equivalent of 3 first-round picks to bring this guy in. You're giving your first-rounder this year to the Browns. And you come out after the draft and you're like, we're going to use him all the time. He's going to be this super weapon on both sides of the ball. And right now, all he really is a backup on both sides of the ball. He's not making an impact in the receiving game. You're basically using him like you would with Jamal Agnew when he was here. Like, most of his targets are just drags and bubble screens. It's like, well, okay, Travis Hunter can do so much more for you in your offense. So they're not leaning into him there. And as a corner, he's struggling. He's just straight up struggling. He's getting too grabby. He's not comfortable out there. He's clearly like, doesn't really know like what is being asked of him. They just don't have a plan for him. And it's not a good look right now. They have got to figure this thing out. So their passing game is just all over the place. And that's ultimately going to decide how their season goes, is if they can straighten this thing out, get Trevor to play more consistent, have more of a plan offensively, or if they are just a bundle of inconsistency right now where BTJ is in his head and Trevor is Trevor and just super inconsistent. You don't know what you're doing with Travis Hunter, and Dyami Brown is good until he drops the football. Like, that's my biggest question on the Jags right now. But that's going to do it for that game. Let's move on to the Seattle Seahawks at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Huge win for the Seattle Seahawks to avoid an 0-2 start. But even bigger than their record, the biggest question on the Seahawks coming into this season was, like, what is Sam Darnold going to be? What is he going to be behind this offensive line and with an interesting group of wide receivers that doesn't really have a vertical threat? A lot of questions as far as what the offense was going to look like, and it's working. I mean, Sam Darnold just looks comfortable to me. He looks like a good starting NFL quarterback, just like he did in Minnesota last year. He has I think, done a good job at kind of removing what happened at the end of the season and refocusing. And again, like showing a good job, showing that he can read defense. He's got a great arm. He's able to extend plays at a very high level. Like he's got legit traits. It's just the mental side of things was a huge question coming in here. And he's largely looked comfortable. And then at the end of this game, especially on I don't know if it was officially the final drive of the game, but there were two plays he made around the 5-minute mark in this game that were just outstanding, like elite quarterback stuff. There's a 3rd and 9 where he's dead to rights. The pressure comes up the middle. Patrick Queen on a blitz comes screaming up the middle. He spins out of it, rolls out, and then finds AJ Barner for the first down. And that was like a huge point in the game because they were backed up in their territory. If that's a sack, the crowd gets roaring. Steelers get the ball back in a 1-score game. Who knows what happens from that point? But he makes that play happen all on his own. And then, I don't know if it was the next play or just a few plays later, but he makes an unbelievable throw, like a 50-yard strike to Jackson Smith and Jigba. Jackson Smith and Jigba on a deep post with Jalen Ramsey kind of draped all over him, like perfect ball placement. Great catch by JSN, who's been incredible this season. But just like that play doesn't happen if it's not a perfect throw from Darnold, and it was. So huge plays in a big spot to lead his team through this game and to their first win on the season. And that's just the biggest of deals for Seattle. Forget whether or not they won this game. Like, just to feel good about Sam Darnold, spending that money there, him being a good player, like raising the floor of this offense, and in some instances, as we described, raising the ceiling of this offense. Huge deal. But I also think the play calling is really good here. They go with Clint Kubiak, who was awesome in New Orleans last year. I think the offense just makes sense to me. It's got a good balance to it. And I had questions about like the distribution of skill sets here with JSN and Cooper Kupp, like both kind of redundant players. Like, how is the O-line going to play in this system? How is the run pass play action balance going to look? It was just a lot of stuff, a lot of moving pieces to put together here. And I like where they're at right now with room to improve, of course. But I think, the Kenneth Walker just looks awesome in a very wide zone oriented offense. I wonder if he can like break through here. He had an awesome day. I can't remember his final stat line, but I do know that Zach Charbonnet had like 19 yards on like 10 carries. And it's just so clear who the better running back is there, yet it's a 50-50 split. I do wonder, like, can Kenneth Walker emerge as a top 5 elite running back? Because there's no doubt in my mind, physical talent, he has it. He's got speed, contact balance, the amount of runs that are dead to rights that he turns something into nothing. He's awesome in the receiving game. I just wonder, like, does Seattle trust him enough to stay healthy? Can he stay healthy? And then just play consistently enough to break through, because there's no doubt the physical talent is there. There's still the occasional run where he's got those DeAndre Swift moments where he's not seeing the hole. But he's so talented, even more than DeAndre Swift, where it just doesn't matter a lot of the times. Like there was a run, I think it was 3rd and 2, where there was a clear hole to the right. He bounces it left, like bounces off the back of his guy, but he still kind of spins out of a tackle and accelerates through contact to still pick up the first down. Anyway, it's like even when he's wrong, he still has the physical talent to make up for it. And it's not like he's always wrong. He just doesn't have great vision, but he was special in this game. So, like, you got him in the run game. Darnold's playing well. JSN looks great. You got good play action, like a good kind of Shanahan-style play caller there. There's enough to work with offensively to complement a defense that looks outstanding. And that's a big deal, too. Like, I think you're definitely getting that hive mind mentality that you look for in this style of defense. Very similar to what we talked about with Jesse Minter in that defense. But it's the same scheme more or less with Mike McDonald here. Everybody's playing fast and comfortable in this defense. The D-line is like swarming right now. They've got a bunch of dudes that are just playing at a good level. Byron Murphy is here. Like, he looks awesome. Boye Mafe looks like he's playing for a big contract. He looks like year two. Boye Mafe, he's winning with his hands really consistently. Hall continues to get after the quarterback. Leonard Williams, they got dudes up front. Secondary had a really good day, I think, relative to expectations with Devon Witherspoon out in this game. Josh Jobe continues to play well outside. So like they're doing things really well defensively. That wasn't so much the question here. It was if the offense was going to be good enough, and I think they are good enough, even if they aren't perfect. Like their pass protection is still an issue, and they gave up a lot of pressure up the middle to Sam Darnold in this game that they got to clean up. But yeah, huge win for Seattle. As for Pittsburgh, it's not time to panic for Pittsburgh. It's like it does feel like anytime Aaron Rodgers involved, the temperature just gets raised. Like, okay, we're talking about a week 2 loss to the Seahawks that, this game featured, down the wire, you have 2 fluke plays where Rodgers rolling left throws what should have been an absolute dime and a huge play that keeps this game not just interesting, but like, I can't remember the exact score at the game, but I think it would have been Pittsburgh takes the lead 24-17. Heading into the fourth is about the time he's targeting Freiermuth in the back corner of the end zone, a strike rolling left, and Calvin Austin, who's in the area, reaches his hand out thinking the pass was for him. Ball gets tipped up and intercepted. Like that's a huge swing in this game. And then you have the rookie moment on the kick return from Caleb Johnson, where just a standard kickoff procedure, it turns into a touchdown for Seattle. So like that's a 14-point swing plus a turnover on just 2 fluky, unpredictable plays for Pittsburgh. If those 2 plays go the other way, Pittsburgh probably wins this game. So I certainly don't think it's time to panic, but they do have to straighten some things out defensively. People are always going to point at Aaron Rodgers and say it's his fault. You're missing the point for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They didn't sign Aaron Rodgers expecting him to win games scoring 34 points every week. They signed him to stabilize the offense, and right now the defense has been an issue. Their intermediate pass defense has to get better. It is super squishy over the middle of the field right now, and it's linebackers and safeties. So with Elliott out in this game, that really hurt them because Chuck Clark, I think you have to cut Chuck Clark. I don't know if they've done that already or not, but he cannot move. I mean, he is a really hard watch at this stage in his career. He was always bad in coverage, but my Lord, that has to be an adjustment. I mean, Seattle was just picking on him. They were just finding Chuck Clark and saying, throw it in his area. He cannot move. So that's got to change, and I think that will because Elliott should be back, and they signed Jabril Peppers, which is a very fun addition that I think could make a big impact here. But yeah, it's a team that wants to run a lot of cover 3, cover 1. Not necessarily out of cover 1, but they like to get in those fire zones and the cover 3 structure. You can't have Chuck Clark back there defending the middle of the field. So that's got to improve. Patrick Queen had a really rough day. Horrible linebacker performance from Patrick Queen. Here's the plays I jotted down for him. So he gives up the easy touchdown to A.J. Barner. It's just in the red zone. It's just a hook zone. The tight end runs right into his area. Sam Darnold looks left, and Patrick Queen goes, oh my God, and he panics out of his position, and Darnold just flips it right to the tight end that it was just a spot concept right into his zone. So like horrible zone coverage at the goal line gives an easy touchdown. There's a 3rd down swing pass. I don't remember the exact situation, but Pittsburgh got very lucky that Seattle decided to punt. They swing it out to the flat. I can't remember if it was JSN or I think it might have been Kenneth Walker. But Walker's like burning up. It's like 3rd and 16. It's just a dump down. But whoever had the ball in that situation is blazing upfield. And it's, I think it was Cole Holcomb was out there. And he's kind of like defending about 2 yards short of the line to gain. And he's like, okay, I gotta make sure whoever the ball carrier doesn't get past me for the first down. But Patrick Queen is just jogging over. Patrick Queen, who like the point of Patrick Queen is to have blazing speed to the sideline. If you're not bringing that, what the hell are you bringing? He could have cut this running back off 10 yards short of the first down, but he's just jogging over, takes himself out of the play, totally leaves Cole Holcomb on an island in a spot where he basically has to stand his ground and say, this is the point where I can't let you get past me. He can't play over aggressive because if Holcomb, busts downfield, he might miss that tackle and it's a first down on a check down on 3rd and 16. Pittsburgh got super lucky that Seattle didn't go for it on 4th down because it was 4th and 1 and they very easily should have gone for it in my opinion. So that was a bad look from Queen. Then there's a big Kenneth Walker run where Robbie Outs, shout out Robbie Outs, awesome block, blows up Peyton Wilson in the hole. But Patrick Queen doesn't scrape over the top. He gets caught up in that block. He lets the fullback take both linebackers out of the play, and then Kenneth Walker gets like a 30-yard run. And then there's the Kenneth Walker screen touchdown that basically ended this game. It's like, again, 3rd and 20. It's a screen, and Patrick Queen is just like totally nonchalant. And in my opinion, allowed that play to happen. He should be the guy that's zeroed in on the running back on that play and just completely nowhere to be found on that big touchdown. So he needs to be called out. Like, he can't, I don't know if he's hurt or what, but he can't be on the field if he's playing like that. It was unwatchable linebacker tape. You have to try. You have to at least try when you're out there, let alone, him getting manipulated in coverage and all that stuff. So rough day for him. I think between their linebacker position and the safeties, they have some issues to clean up in the middle of the field there. But like I said, anyone blaming Aaron Rodgers for this loss is missing the point. And I don't even think Aaron Rodgers was bad in this game. Was he amazing? No, literally nobody is out there ranking Aaron Rodgers as a top 15 QB or saying he's amazing or saying like the Steelers are Super Bowl contenders because now they have Aaron Rodgers. You're missing the point if you watch this game and then blamed Aaron Rodgers. He did his job in this game. He had one very bad play, which was a interceptable ball over the middle of the field that he got away with. More than made up for it though with making something out of nothing 3+ times in this game. There was the play where he rolls left and has a beautiful throw on the run to kind of slice it through the linebacker, gets it into the hand of Jaylen Warren in stride, and then Jaylen Warren did the rest on a huge play. There was the first pick should have been a great play from it was a great play from Rodgers that just didn't result in what you expect on that play, but that was a freaking great throw, corner of the end zone, should have been a touchdown to Freiermuth. There was another play late in this game where he's rolling right under pressure, high points the ball to Pat Freiermuth on a 3rd and 8 where there was nothing there. Like, he had a lot of great plays in this game. He had other plays too where he missed reads over the middle of the field. He was off on a few throws. Again, no one is sitting here saying Aaron Rodgers should be the solution here. But anybody out there, which I've seen, like, people blaming Aaron Rodgers, and it's just like, you have to just take a step back from the whole, like, attention suck that he is. And I think he himself is doing a good job. Just like, I just want to play football and be a leader and do what I'm asked of here, make plays where I can. And yeah, he's not perfect. He made a bad read over the middle of the field, which was kind of predictable against this style defense that he's always struggled against. But for me, it's like they got to get the ground game working more consistently. Go to Caleb Johnson. Like, at least find out. Don't you at least want to fucking find out if this guy is what you thought he was? I don't understand how he's not getting any play here. I mean, Jaylen Warren looks incredible, but you can't just give Jaylen Warren every touch, and these Kenneth Gainwell touches are going to waste. Like, to me, the idea of Caleb Johnson being an elite wide zone running prospect, you want to play a wide zone offense, play action, big personnel. Like, that's what this offense is all about. They got away from it in this game. I don't understand how you don't just see what Caleb Johnson has to offer there. So, anyway, I'm not panicked about Pittsburgh. They had some things go against them this week. They had the kick return fumble last week go in their favor. So they're 1-1, and they're gonna continue figuring things out as the season goes on. I think there was probably more panic in Pittsburgh's direction than is currently warranted, though, coming out of this game. This game was a lot closer than the final score of 31-17 indicated. All right, let's move on to New England at Miami. Hey, given the matchup here, this was a fun back and forth football game. Let's start with New England, who ends up winning this game, though Miami made it very cllose at the end. Game of inches, man. If Devon Achan's ankle doesn't step out when he cuts back inside for a go-ahead touchdown, we've got a 34-33 football game with Drake May getting the football with a minute to go. But unfortunately for Miami, he did step out, and then New England's defense steps up in the end to shut the door. But, New England gets their first win on the season, and kind of like we said with Seattle, win or lose in a tight game here, the bigger deal here is, hey, Drake May, this to me was the best start of his young career. Not just, a couple big plays, which he did have. He had a beautiful scramble for a touchdown where the overload blitz comes and he rolls right and runs it in, shows off just like he's such an athletic scrambler, man. He is a weapon when he decides to use his feet, and he's very good at doing it. But he had a couple of really nice throws. The most impressive one to me was the touch pass to Ramondre Stevenson, where he kind of steps up in the pocket and just like the perfect throw you want to make to a running back running a wheel route. You don't want to just like fire it on him and expect him to make this tough catch. Like, he shows off the touch and like drops it right in the bucket. Great catch by Stevenson, but a huge throw in this game. So he made some big plays happen. But we know Drake May is capable of that. For me, it's the playing on structure, staying ahead of schedule, down-wise. Don't put yourself in long down and distance, compromising situations. He had just 4 incompletions in this game, 0 turnover-worthy plays, 0 turnovers. That's what stood out to me, was the efficiency of play from Drake May. And just like, that is the result too of like New England starting to put things together. So much better week from Josh Daniels and the offense at large. And I like the direction they're going there. And then, the defense, I think, had an up and down day. They have some holes defensively, especially with like, Christian Gonzalez is out. Their front seven like has dudes, but they don't have any like, they have their interior defensive line, but like their edge group is questionable. I think the linebacking group is struggling right now. I think I felt better about that group than they're playing right now. Robert Spillane is really struggling, especially in coverage. That he was getting picked on in this game, and so was Christian Ellis, who I thought was really like arrow pointing up. I'm wondering if he should be out there right now. So their second level is really struggling. Obviously, not having their best player in Christian Gonzalez hurts, but they stepped up at the end of this game when they needed it most. They get a couple of big sacks late in this game. Harold Landry, who was nowhere to be found throughout the course of the game, but he beats Larry Borum around the corner for a sack late in this game. And then Milton Williams really turned it on in the second half of this game. They got what they paid for from Milton Williams' game check in this one. He was awesome. He had a bunch of pressures, but he had a sack late in this game to the sack that I think it was 4th down, the dagger sack that put this game away. So they stepped up when they needed to defensively. But they're certainly not perfect defensively. This team is certainly not perfect, but it's really all about finding like it's a building season, not a rebuilding season, but a building season. You want to stack performances like this, but in order to stack performances like this, you have to have them in the first place. So great to see that. And then for Miami, like, dude, their defense, it's a complete rebuild for their defense. Like, talk about a rebuild. We know they're going to have questions at the second level. Like, their secondary on paper is a joke. That's one thing, but man, their defensive line, I don't know what you're getting out of that group. Like, I thought at least Chop Robinson was a total green light for this defense. He's been very quiet to start the season. He has just 2 pressures in his first 2 games. So want to see more from Chop. But like Jalen Phillips, Zach Sealer, Chop Robinson, Bradley Chubb, and Kenneth Grant, they have a combined 12 pressures in their first 2 games. And they were having a hard time getting after Drake May against a pretty shoddy offensive line. So that is between those 5 core players on this defensive line, that is 4 first-round picks and, a guy you're paying, Zach Sealer, and a guy you're paying in Bradley Chubb. Well, Bradley Chubb was a first-round pick, not from this team, but no, they did. They traded a first-round pick to acquire him and then paid him. So, massive investments. That is 1.2 pressure per game from each individual person on average. And the only one of those guys with more than 2 pressures is Jalen Phillips, who has 4 this season. So if they're not winning up front, this defense is in for a long, long season. They've just got to get better there. So that's the biggest thing to look for, I think, on that side of the ball. But really good to see this offense wake the hell up. It feels like it has been a full calendar season, a full calendar year plus, since we saw the Mike McDaniel scheme work with Tua and Hill and Waddle all in sync, and now in tandem with what they really discovered last year with the Devon Achane stuff. Devon Achane was just everywhere in this game. He's like a hornet flying around. He's whipping around pre-snap, screens, outside runs, tosses. He is such a nuisance to deal with, especially as we saw in this game when Tua and Hill and Waddle are able to be on the same page and open up the passing game a little bit. And it was just, man, fun to see. I've been hard on Tua, but God, where the hell has this been? It shouldn't be that hard to hit Jalen Waddle on a corner route on a second read. They got it done. Tua, nice touch pass for a touchdown to Waddle. It shouldn't be that hard to throw these, throws to Hill towards the sideline that have been working for as long as he's been here, and they just stopped doing it. Those corner routes where Tyreek Hill is going to get space, where Tua just kind of throws it into a space and Hill is able to adjust to it and work back to the ball. They got back to doing those. So it's really good to see the McDaniel offense kind of start to put itself back together. I hope they can continue to build off of that, because it's just it's unwatchable to watch this team when they're not scoring points offensively. And as hard as I am on Tua, I do root for him to succeed. I think he's a super nice dude, and it's fun to see him have good performances like this. So he did have another just stupid interception though. It was 4th down though, but still probably better options on the play than to just throw it right to the linebacker. But beyond that, I did think Tua played well. So Miami's just not a good spot, as we know, but a tough game to lose. They weren't able to seal it in the end, and in large part it was because the offensive line fell apart down the stretch, frankly, which is just another hole on this Dolphins team. But let's go ahead and move forward to the Chicago Bears Lions blowout. Detroit, total bounce back week, total feel good week for them. Just dissecting this Bears defense left and right from the get-go. It was first 5 plays were just boom, boom, boom. I had the, for those on Patreon that watch my weekly picks and get my weekly underdog lineup, I had Amon-Ra to have a big week here, knowing Kyler Gordon was out, knowing that Detroit was probably going to set up to bounce back pretty well in their home opener. And he basically got the higher. It was 66 yards. He basically got the higher on the first drive. So Detroit's offense was just humming out the gate. And to me, this felt like a Ben Johnson game where you have that perfect run-pass balance. We got a little bit more David Montgomery in this game, which was good to see. That Thunder and Lightning make its return a little bit. Good to see Montgomery healthy, because that was a question coming off the late season knee injury last year, getting a little bit older. He looks healthy to me, looks like himself. But this felt like a Ben Johnson game plan where you got the run game, you got the play action game working, you're scheming guys open down the field, you're using Amon-Ra St. Brown to just terrorize defenses. And then you mixed in a little bit of trickery. Not necessarily trick plays, but you get some of those creative wrinkles. They had a nice reverse to Khalif Raymond, gets some yards. You have Amon-Ra lines up at running back and gets a carry on a play, and it's just some of those little creative wrinkles. This felt like Ben Johnson was back calling plays in Detroit. He was back in Detroit, but it was on the other side of the ball. So just kind of a huge sigh of relief week for Detroit to see that the play caller isn't going to be an issue, to see that Montgomery is healthy, to see that things are going to be hopefully just fine here for Detroit. after it was full-scale panic following week 1. Also, Isaac TeSlaa, just another ridiculous catch. Someone responded to me on Twitter. Sorry for not giving you proper credit here, but he said, I said, like, man, like, Arkansas must be kicking themselves for not recognizing Isaac TeSlaa's talent. And the response was, to be fair, we still don't know if he can catch the football with 2 hands, because so far all he has is 1 yard, one hand catches, but just an insane over the shoulder, like gets his feet down. Like, this dude, I think, is a player, and Detroit saw it. I certainly didn't, but I mean, it's just really impressive that they had the vision here, because Arkansas just had him running up the seam and totally misutilized this guy. He hardly got any targets at Arkansas, 5-year college player. But he has all the traits of an outside wide receiver. He's got a lot more juice than someone like Josh Reynolds. And they didn't just commit to him with 3 third-round draft picks. They committed to him by trading away, I think I've said Josh Reynolds, but Tim Patrick. They traded him away, I think, to Miami, right? Jacksonville. But they traded him away and opened that door for TeSlaa to be their outside guy. And I think we're going to continue to see more and more of him. So just everything's working for the offense. And then defensively, also impressive day. They still have like a ways to go. Like, once they get Aleem McNeil back, they should be able to really hit the ground running. But dude, Tyleik Williams, 1st-round draft pick, really nice, player to plug into this defense. And he's doing his job with McNeil hurt right now. He had a great game. He basically forced 2 turnover on downs. One like single-handedly was, I tweeted this out, but there was a 3-play sequence where it was 2nd and 1, and Tyleik Williams ends up, good awareness play, batting down a pass from Caleb Williams. Didn't win on the pass rush, but that's going to be Tyleik Williams, right? Like, they didn't draft him to be a great pass rusher. He'll get the occasional win, but what a great way to still make an impact if you're not going to beat your guy, to use your giant frame and keep your eyes peeled for batted pass opportunities. And he gets one of those. Huge play there. Super underrated, stat. Like, batted passes are the equivalent of like winning on a sack, or like those are huge plays. Like, yeah, you might not get a loss of yards, but a lot of batted passes turn into interceptions and stuff too. So like, those are huge plays. He gets that. And then on 3rd and 1, the Bears try to sneak it, and he didn't himself stop the run. DJ Reader did his job on that one, but he compressed the backside of the sneak, so there was no opportunity for Caleb to kind of like roll or cut left or anything like that. And then 4th down, they try to sneak it again. And Chicago's like in their own territory, 4th and inches, and they go at Tyleik Williams this time, and he totally blows it up. So like, he had a great sequence there. And then again, there's another 4th and 5 late in this game where Tyleik actually ends up going unblocked because it was a busted protection from Chicago. But he comes unblocked, and then Caleb recognizes it, tries to get the ball out quickly, and he does a good job to get his hands up and deflected another pass to stop the ball, to stop it on 4th down. So like, he just looks the part of a good NFL nose tackle. It's really hard not to see Snacks Harrison with him. So he's making an impact out the gate. Love to see that. And I think Detroit's going to be just fine. Let's talk about Chicago, who I don't know if they're going to be just fine, at least this season. You can't go into Detroit and make as many mistakes as they did. They had 3 critical mistakes early in this game before it just gets out of hand. You have the Devondre Swift fumble, which, like, you reap what you sow, right? Like, Devondre Swift should not be your starting running back. He should be getting gadget touches on 3rd downs and making about $2 million a year. But they're overpaying him. They overinvested in him. They chose not to draft a running back this year, which was a huge mistake. And he gets hit hard and he fumbles. That completely swung this game early. And then I mentioned it, like, they go for it on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. They run back-to-back QB sneaks and don't get it. Like, you can't afford that backed up in your own territory. And then when the game was still close, Caleb Williams attempts a YOLO ball, 2nd and 32. Like, all right, Caleb, like you're trying to do too much. I don't think Caleb was bad in this game beyond that play, but that again, like helps. How do you end up 52-21? It's plays like that where it's still a game and you're forcing a ball on 2nd and 32 after obviously making a mistake to back yourself up that far. Well, the team, made a mistake to back yourself up that far. Like, just live to see another day in that situation. So you can't make that many mistakes. So they're looking sloppy on offense. The offensive line also continues to struggle to pick up stunts and games. They, like the Texans, have been one of these lines that they're even worse than the sum of their parts, because anytime you throw a twist or a blitz at them, they feel like they're ill-equipped to handle it. And that shouldn't be happening with what they invested in that offensive line with Drew Dahlman, a theoretically smart veteran center, a Stanford guy, a veteran in Jonah Jackson, obviously with total brain fart here, but all pro left guard Joe Thuney there. Like, that stuff shouldn't be happening like multiple times in this game down the stretch. Like, they just let guys come unblocked when they had the numbers to account for it. So they have so much to clean up offensively, and then defense, they're just in trouble. I don't think it's a Dennis Allen problem. I can already see, like, there's going to be some fingers being pointed at Dennis Allen. We'll see if that ages to be appropriate or not. I think just a small part of this is, like, we ran into a buzzsaw this week. They're not going to be giving up 52 points every week, that's for sure. But, like, we've seen this from a lot of great defensive coordinators, that it can take time to, like, reshift and implement your system on a completely new team. That's pretty standard for defensive coordinators, frankly. So I think we're just seeing some of that, especially because you're going from a Matt Eberflus defense that is ridiculously zone heavy to, Dennis Allen is in his comfort zone as a man style defense. So you're getting a huge transition in scheme, and you're out your top two corners at this point. It's a tough spot to be in. So we will monitor the Dennis Allen of it all, but they're in a tough spot, man. Their secondary is really deprived of talent at this point. Like, Jalen Johnson's going to be out for the season. That's going to hurt. They're already out. Smith, the Minnesota corner, Terrell Smith, he's done for the season. So you're down two corners. Well, three. Kyler Gordon was out in this game too. That blows. And like Kevin Byard, this has shades of Marcus Williams circa Baltimore 2024, where it reached a point where they just had to bench him. He looks so bad. Back-to-back weeks, he can't get there in the run. He's like taking the wrong angles because he's miscalculating. He can't run like he used to, so he's ending up taking bad angles. He's missing tackles. He's like out of position in coverage. He's given up 2 touchdowns in back-to-back weeks. He looks washed. He looks straight up washed. And that's an issue on the back end when you're already dealing with secondary issues. Like, I know it was Jameson Williams, but watching him try to square up Jameson Williams on that big catch and run play, it was like watching your grandpa like try to bring down an NFL receiver. It was tough. So they got huge issues in the secondary, which does not bode well for Dennis Allen, who wants to run bump and run coverage. But it also comes back to their draft. Like, I think we'll have further conversations about this as the year goes on, and it's week 2. You never want to panic about a draft, but I did say that this Bears draft was extremely underwhelming in that, like, okay, Loveland was fine, but probably, going to be slower to get into the mix with Cole Kmet there. Like, that's playing out. And then, like, Luther Burden felt like a luxury pick that the Bears didn't have the luxury of making. They're looking for a DJ Moore type of player, which was the pro comp on Burden. You have DJ Moore at home. They have no way to really get him the football. And the pressure on that could mount, by the way. Luther Burden, especially as, the Bears are 0-2 now, Luther Burden fell in the draft because of diva issues. This could only be the beginning of that. We'll see how that all plays out. But it was especially the next 2 picks. Like, the Ozzie Trapilla pick was bizarre. Like, the odds of him ever becoming a better player than Braxton Jones were always very slim. And then they take Shamar Turner, who was a complete project. And it's like, dude, you had four top 60 picks, and they aren't getting anything from that rookie class. And their defense is deprived of talent right now. Like, the only good addition they got from this offseason, frankly, was Grady Jarrett's was overpaid. He hasn't been bad necessarily, but he hasn't really made an impact. But, Dayo Odeyingbo's playing pretty well. But other than that, like, they have added really nothing to this defense, and now you're starting to get injuries. You're starting to see the depth is really bad here, and that's bad drafting in a nutshell. So the Bears just have a lot of issues right now, so much to clean up offensively, a lot of just attention to detail stuff that is lacking. Caleb's not playing amazing. I thought he was better this week. The story from this week was not Caleb. But man, this defense could be setting up to be really quite bad right now with those injuries especially. So I'm worried. Got to be worried about Chicago. All right, let's move on to Cleveland at Baltimore. Really not as much to say about Baltimore here. They were double-digit favorites, and they absolutely took care of business in this one. I think we will have further conversations about Baltimore in future podcasts. They played Detroit this week, right? That should be a lot to react to there. But it was a big day for their defense and special teams, just dominating the Browns as you kind of expected. They get a pump block and an interception return that set up short fields. That led to the score really getting out of hand. I think offensively, like, Cleveland does have a good defense, and they loaded up to stop the run, and Baltimore made some adjustments as the game went on. And I think Lamar did a good job to find some of these other guys. Like DeAndre Hopkins looks really good. He made a couple of really impressive catches here. I will say, like, no team loves padding Lamar. Like, I'm not trying to... And Lamar ended up not winning the MVP last year anyway, but I'm just saying, the Ravens love to pad those touchdown numbers for Lamar. They just do. Like, they're up 24 points with 5 minutes left in this game, and Lamar's out there throwing a go ball touchdown to DeAndre Hopkins. It's like, you get kicked out of my Madden league if you're doing that with your starting quarterback. Like, they love to pad the stats here, and they did. But great catch by DeAndre Hopkins. But he looks good. That's the main takeaway here. I think Tylan Wallace is really emerging as like a quality, just like wide receiver 4. He's stuck around and is I liked him as a prospect, man. And you're seeing that like really surface as just another piece here. And they were able to tap into him as the run game was getting taken away here. Tez Walker has a touchdown catch in this game. So it's just, Baltimore, they're just such a powerhouse offense, man. If they can kill you on the ground, they'll do it. But I love that they can just continue to prove, like, we got answers, man. If you're going to sell it to stop the run, fine. Lamar will beat you with his arm. So really pretty much business as usual. Baltimore, to me, rolled in a game that you expected them to. And then for Cleveland, like, ignore the 41 points for a second. Their defense played well in this game. They made things really tough on Lamar early. Like, they were sitting at 20 points allowed in the fourth quarter, and the 20 points was largely because they had a block punt and an interception get returned into their own territory. So, like, I do think Cleveland has one of the best defenses in the league, and Jim Schwartz has these guys firing closer to they were in 2023, but you can't be on the field that much. And by the way, the Ravens defense had another touchdown to make it 34-10. So the 41 points is not a reflection of how the Browns defense played in this game. It's just you got to get more from your offense at some point, and the dam's going to break, as it did. I think it was Myles Garrett himself that said that. And that just brings me back to the Browns offense. Like, it's hard to watch right now. And I get what they're doing. Like, they see Flacco as the floor-raising, like, stabilizing force that allows them to kind of, like, evaluate the situation. I mean, kind of. Like, there's so many third down throws that are short of the sticks. There's no mobility from Flacco. There's just no juice at all there. I question how long you can do this, like, for not just for your fans, but like internally. It's like, man, we just don't have a chance out here. Like, there's just nothing going offensively. So at some point, I do think we'll see either Gabriel or Shedeur. I'm going to give it a few more weeks before I get like mad about not seeing it, but it's an unwatchable offense right now. On the plus side, like you are getting to see like Harold Fannin. Looks like a great draft pick. I'm just saying, like loved him. At this point in time, I'm very happy that I had him as a top 50 player in this draft for me. Great hands. He had another 5 catches for 48 yards. An impressive, like, leaping, like, over the middle of the field, like, impact play up the middle of the field in this game. And then also really good to see Quinshon Judkins get going. Like, there was a moment just like a month ago that it felt like, man, did they light that pick on fire? Like, what is going on with this Quinshon Judkins situation? Like, contract drama, off the field drama. I'm not even going to get into like what he did. I just don't have the bandwidth to talk about that right now. But at least from the Browns' perspective, it's good to see your second round pick, not just second round pick, your top 34 round pick that was super talented coming out. It's good to see him get on the field and look good. You know, he had a 31-yard run in total garbage time. I don't want to put too much into that, but I think we see him overtake this backfield and recapture his hype as long as he can stay out of trouble off the field. So good to see at least some of the young players get going. You're kind of looking for positivity in a season that we know is going to be a transition season for Cleveland. All right, I need to have a sip of water because I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit here, but we have 3 games left. We will get through those when I come right back. Just kidding. We actually have 4 games left, and I had to literally come back after I finished the show and just about finished editing the show to realize that I forgot to even take notes on Bills-Jets. Definitely the most forgettable game of the week, but we do owe it to you fans. If you sat through 2 hours of this podcast, you don't deserve to get all the way and then find out I skipped this game, which I have done in the past. So learning from previous mistakes here. Anyway, like I said, this game finishes 30-10, complete and utter dominance from the Bills. Like the last 20 minutes of this game were unwatchable. Justin Fields leaves with a concussion. Tyrod Taylor comes in. This game was over. Like they're trying to kill time on the broadcast just to get through this thing. But the Bills look good, right? They escape week 1 with the comeback, and then they come in here and just boat race the New York Jets. Josh Allen just in complete command. One of those kind of I guess, new vintage Bills games where they're just kind of ball control offense, a little bit of running. James Cook looking good, had an awesome run in this game. But just kind of nickel and diamond, taking what the defense gives you. Just an excellent game from Josh Allen to start to finish. And, one of the highlights of this game, like one of the only interesting moments was Josh Allen gets like accidentally punched in the face on a play where he gets hit. Mitch Trubisky even comes in and throws maybe the best throw that any quarterback had in the game, like just an absolute seed over the middle of the field on a crossing route. So, I mean, that was interesting. I do think the Bills defense deserves credit for focusing back in and stopping the run, which this Jets offense was great running the football week 1 against the Steelers. So definitely a tip of the cap to Sean McDermott and the Bills defense for having a good game plan to account for Justin Fields and limit the game on the ground, because once they stopped the run and took a lead, this game was really over. The last thing I'll say on the Bills is for now, at least, Joey Bosa looks fully healthy, fully fresh. This was a big question for this defense, right? Like, could they strike gold and get him on the cheap and somehow manage a healthy Joey Bosa season? And can he be what he used to be? So far, he looks really twitched up and dynamic. It's like watching, the clips of his pressures and stuff. It's like a flash from the damn past. So that's really exciting if you're a Bills fan. We've spent so much time talking about how they've been trying to find that game-changing pass rusher. They kind of struck out with Von Miller for the most part. They're never picking high in the draft, seemingly high enough in the draft, seemingly to find that guy through the draft. So if they're able to find that from a guy that's been just historically injured, it's only week 2 though. So like that's the main thing on Bosa is he's got to stay healthy. But that's probably the most exciting thing coming out of this game. If you're a Bills fan, is like, ooh man, like there could be something there. So there's your Bills. And then Jets, very hard to find anything to say about the Jets this week. Just really a gut punch if you're a Jets fan for you to come out of an exciting week one where they did lose, and then for this to be the effort, Justin Fields just takes a full U-turn back to not seeing the field. He fumbles on a scramble. They just had no chance offensively in this game. The run game wasn't working, and then I think you are at least discouraged early on by what this Jets defense looks like now. I mean, not to beat a dead horse here, but like anytime a new coordinator comes into a new spot, it can take some time, especially when you're going from a zone-heavy defense last year to a man-heavy defense this year. But it has not been good to start. They give out 30-plus points in back-to-back weeks. And, you know, I do think Tony Romo did a really good job highlighting the predictability of this defense, the predictable nature of this defense. And it just allowed for the Bills to have that game plan that we talked about. Like, in a league where it's all about post-snap safety disguise or pre-snap disguise, post-snap rotation, causing deception, showing one look pre-snap, running another post-snap, the Jets aren't really doing that, and they don't do that in an Aaron Glenn defense. It's much more about, well, we're going to run a lot of press man coverage. We'll go to zone. But historically speaking, Aaron Glenn's zone game plans in Detroit haven't really worked. And I think this could be, Tony Romo could be onto something here. Like, is it just a lack of disguise for Aaron Glenn? But I had questions about Aaron Glenn coming in terms of, is he really a great pass game coach on the defensive side of the ball? I don't think he's really proved that in Detroit. Not that I'm like writing off Aaron Glenn or anything like that, but there's certainly some red flags early and maybe some things for Aaron Glenn to look in the mirror a little bit and make some adjustments as the season goes on. But yeah, just a pretty devastating week for the Jets. I don't have too much positivity to bring to the table here. They got to get back to work, and unfortunately they're going to have to do it now, presumably at least this week with Tyrod Taylor. But hopefully Justin Fields can get back out there because, at least the idea of Justin Fields is fun if you're a Jets fan. But yeah, there's, I guess, our interjection, and let's go back to what I recorded earlier. Okay, our next game is San Francisco at New Orleans. San Fran gets the win, 26-21. And get to 2-0 when they're dealing with all these injuries. It's kind of similar to what we talked about with Tampa Bay. Like, if they can navigate the start of this season with a winning record, that's a huge deal. And I'm starting to get very intrigued by what this Niners team could develop into as the season goes on. But yeah, they go out there with Mac Jones against a Brandon Staley Saints defense, and they were just fine offensively. Like, the run game was pretty good with Christian McCaffrey. He looks solid. I think he's probably lost a little bit of that juice that makes him, made him the best running back in the league a couple years ago, but still great vision, contact balance. Like, they're able to, lean into him pretty heavily on the ground. And then I definitely think Mac Jones, was okay early and then really settled in and felt comfortable as the game went on. Just making anticipation throws over the middle of the field, really starting to understand how to use Juwan Jennings later in this game. And it was a good, there were, a few teams had very take a deep breath, everything's okay on some of these narratives. Detroit had that bounce back game. I think Miami had a little bit of that with the offense figuring things out. There's been a lot of fingers being pointed at Kyle Shanahan. It's are you really what we think you are? And the whole idea of Kyle Shanahan is he can take pretty much any quarterback and get a productive day out of him. And it's not to take away from Brock Purdy and what he does, but it was just you kind of expected this based on how we talk about Kyle Shanahan. But there's a world where Mac Jones throws two ugly picks and they lose a road game in New Orleans, and you're like, God, this just they can't seem to get anything going in the right direction. They got things going in the right direction, and it's a big deal for San Francisco. It really is. But honestly, this game, as it went down the stretch, was the Niners defense just slamming the door shut. And I really do like what we're seeing from the revival on that side of things. And I just want to say, man, Brandon Staley was effectively your defensive coordinator last year, or your defensive head coach. I don't know which one's worse. You say goodbye to him. He ends up in New Orleans, who basically gave you whatever you wanted offensively in this game. You bring in Robert Saleh, and all of a sudden, this is a tough defense with an identity. And they're not perfect. They're certainly not perfect, but they've got some young guys flying around. Like D. Winters was a big breakout candidate this year. He looks great. Like Marquise Siegel is starting at safety on the back end. He lost a couple of contested catches in this game, but like I like the speed and the youth from him, and he was in like good position on. He gave up a touchdown to Juwan Johnson, and then Brandon Cooks boxed him out for a catch. But like, he's interesting to me. You've got your like youth on the D line with Michael Williams and Alfred Collins. Like I like that. The Bryce Huff edition was such a big deal. Like he gives you your pass rush juice that we knew. Like Michael Williams probably wasn't going to give you that in year one, but Bryce Huff is giving you that. Nick Bosa's healthy and 100%. And Saleh just has these guys playing together. Like it just everything makes sense again for this defense, and that is the biggest of deals, and the main reason they were able to shut the door on this Saints offense that was finding a little bit of life as this game went on. But San Francisco, to me, like they're maximizing on having an easier schedule, and this was no Brock Purdy, no George Kittle, no Brandon Ayuk. I really think San Francisco is a sleeper cell in the NFL right now. Nobody wants these guys to get hot and healthy down the stretch here, and they're setting up to kind of do that. So very good stuff from them. And then for New Orleans, like Based Maliger on Twitter put this perfectly. There's nothing glaringly awful about the Saints. We're just kind of 25th best in the league at everything right now. And that's so true. Like, they continue to kind of sign veterans, Brandon Cooks, Eric Reed. Not Eric Reed. Geez, that's a throwback. Justin Reed, which I think was his brother. But, like, they have, like, pretty solid players across the board. Like, DeMario Davis is still balling out. Pete Werner looks good. Like, they're very stable as a football team. And I think that's actually a big compliment because things could have looked worse. I think schematically speaking and like locker room culture wise, like they're playing tough. They're playing together. They're playing close games. And I think if you're talking about like Kellen Moore as a very young head coach, like just kind of having the team together. And this is with Brandon Staley as their defensive coordinator, mind you, which is going to make things harder on you. I still have major questions about that, but overall, like, yeah, they look good. And Kellen Moore's got Desmond Ridder. I will forever do that. Spencer Rattler's playing pretty well. Like, I think we were maybe going a little bit too far on, like, saying he looks good. He made a couple of big throws. I still think, like, there's a lot of third down throws short of the sticks. He's taking a fair amount of sacks. Like, I still at no point have felt any bit of confidence that like they're going to win the game with Spencer Rattler out there, but he certainly is like, looks like a, baseline, like adequate NFL quarterback. And this week he made some throws down the field, had some impressive scrambles. Week one, like it wasn't as much of that, but it's good to see even more flashes out of him because he does have the traits. He doesn't look like the worst starting quarterback in the league right now. JJ McCarthy looked worse. I think Joe Flacco's playing worse. So at least there's that. And you definitely at least have to shout out, like, the Saints have some playmakers right now. That was the big thing with them was, like, can you really count on these receivers to stay healthy? But at least right now, like, Chris Olave's out there. He looks great. Rashid Shaheed's out there. He looks great. Juwan Johnson can play. Devon Vele was an overpay, but, like, he made a tough catch on a slant for a touchdown, like, as a fourth piece in your offense. I think that's a solid option. Alvin Kamara, like they've got places to go with the football. Like if they aren't 25th more or less at anything, it's probably pass catchers. Like they've got dudes. Even Brandon Cooks is like making some plays for them. So I have them still as the 32nd team in the NFL kind of by default right now. But they haven't necessarily played like it out the gate. I think this is probably best case scenario for the Saints is like losing close games, continue to build up the roster, and find some young players that step up. And another one of those guys too, before we move on, is Brian Brzee is making his presence felt. He had a block kick last week. He had 4 pressures in this game. And yeah, he's an impactful, not rotational, but like pass rush downs D lineman, and he's shown to be a big impact blocking kicks. Like he's legitimately good at that because of his athleticism and his size. So yeah, let's move on to the Rams Titans. Very entertaining football game for the majority of it. It was a tight game. The Titans had the lead halfway into the third quarter in this game. I think the Titans are showing some legitimate fight right now. But eventually the Rams just said enough. And once they were trailing in the fourth quarter, Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay just said, yeah, it's enough of that. And Matthew Stafford just started going nuclear on this Titans defense. My God, what a final 20 minutes of this game for Matthew Stafford. Like if you didn't watch this game and you don't have any interest, just go get into the condensed game, load it up at like the 5 minute left in the third quarter, and just hit play. And it is just a clinic from Stafford. Just like multiple just strikes to Puka Nacua over the middle of the field, just knifing it in between the defense. He has a beautiful touch pass to Davante Adams on a 3rd and 5, tightly covered by L'Jarius Sneed, but you can't defend the perfect pass. And Davante Adams just looks really good here in a Rams jersey. And then they dial up Jordan Whittington on a play action wheel route. Perfect, like coverage predicted play from Sean McVay, and then great execution from Stafford. It's like they were playing like James Bond GoldenEye or Halo 3, and they were out there with a pistol, and eventually they just picked up the rocket launcher and said, enough of this, time to end this game. That's what this one felt like. So it's really impressive to see that the Rams have that gear in them this early when Stafford like hardly practiced this offseason. Like Puka is just absurd, by the way. Like so many tough catches. They run a 4th and 1 jet sweep to him, and he breaks a tackle and takes it to the house. Like he is a superstar. Now you have Davante Adams, like the perfect complement. I love the way they're using these guys. We even got a Blake Corum sighting in the fourth quarter of this game, and he looks good. Little bit of juice there, good vision. Take a little bit of weight off of Kyren Williams' shoulders to help put the game away. I think was good to get some fresh legs in there. So really like what they're doing offensively, and then defensively they put the clamps down too. Like it wasn't just the offense that said enough of this; it was the defense, and they had really at that turning point of the third quarter into the fourth quarter. They shut down 2 drives with their with edge rushers. First, it was Jared Verse who blows up the left tackle, forces a 3-and-out. Cam Ward had nothing to do on that one. And then on the next drive, it was Byron Young who beats the right tackle for a sack and ends that drive. And by the way, Byron Young, I pegged this as like Josiah Stewart's going to be a little better and they're going to phase out Byron Young. Byron Young is one of the stories of certainly this Rams team, but of the season. I mean, he has just crazy, freaky traits, but he's never really been someone that wins as a pass rusher, like one-on-one. He's been kind of a cleanup artist, but he's so unique because he's still new to competitive level football. He's the one that had that unique story where he was working at a dollar store and then signed up at like 22 years old to go play for a local team, and then he balled out and he ended up playing at Tennessee, goes in the 3rd round like he's a 25-year-old rookie. Like he's starting to win with some swipes, and I saw him win with a bull rush. There is no lack of traits in that man. So if he is starting to click on top of Jared Verse, that is extremely dangerous. Kobe Turner made his presence felt in this game too. Like that Rams D-line, when they needed to, they turned it on. So I really like the Rams. This was an impressive win to just close the deal on this one. And they play the Eagles this week. I think the Rams look better than the Eagles, right? It comes back to what we said early, though. Like, can the Rams get up and stop this Eagles run game? That's going to be a really fun test to see for the Rams because that's been their Achilles heel, at least in this kind of Chris Shula defensive rejuvenated era, is they are a lighter front. Can they get after it defensively? And what does this passing game look like against Vic Fangio? Remember, the Rams gave the Eagles the hardest test in the playoffs last year, so I'm really looking forward to that matchup because I think the Rams are really sneaky Super Bowl contenders. And honestly, man, narrative-wise, I think the NFC is shaping up to be the better conference this year. I do. Like, I don't think the Chiefs are as dangerous as they once were. Obviously, Joe Burrow out for the Bengals hurts. I look at, like, some of these second-level NFC teams, the Rams, the Bucks, the Packers, the Niners even. Like, those teams could just be getting started. And the NFC could be turning into, like, and Detroit, like, obviously, I think is getting back on track. You got Philadelphia. The NFC is shaping up to be a potential bloodbath, whereas the AFC right now kind of just looks like Baltimore and Buffalo right now for Super Bowl, like for legitimate like Super Bowl type of teams. So something to keep an eye on there at large for the league. But Tennessee deserves some love, man. Like they are showing some fight, and like they lose their 8th straight game, and it's tough to like try to say like they're going in the right direction when they just keep losing. But I think it's impressive to hold a lead into the third quarter against the Rams. And I think defensively, like I do like the general idea of that defense. Like I like the coaching and the scheme. They've got that Mike Macdonald system kind of under wraps. And I think they're starting to click a little bit more there, especially like their linebacker play was so bad last year. Remember, they just kept turning through linebackers. I like the setup they have right now. Cedric Gray, year 2 linebacker, like always liked him as a mid-round prospect. He looks like he could be dropped right in line of those like, you know, 3rd, 4th round, like athletic linebacker prospects that start to figure things out after their rookie season. He's playing well. And just the stabilizing signing of Cody Barton, who had the pick before half in this game. I think getting some more consistency in the middle of the field there is nice. Jeffrey Simmons, by the way, too, is dominating out the gate here. He already has, what did I put down in the notes here? He already has 22% of the pressures that he had from last season. So he had 45 pressures last year. He's already got 10. So he looks great. And then L'Jarius Sneed, he's been up and down. He's gotten beat. Like Devontae Adams got him in this game. They ask a lot of him, but he at least looks healthy to me. And I think he's going to turn around and play better here moving forward. So I think their defense is showing some friskiness there. And then like offensively, at least they're like keeping their heads above water. I still don't really love what we're seeing from Brian Callahan. I just don't see a lot of like true creativity to elevate things schematically. And the run game to me just kind of very lackluster, but like Cam Ward I will continue to stick with that metaphor. He's keeping his head above water, and that's not really a surprise with Cam Ward, right? Like he has battled adversity his entire career. So him getting knocked down is not going to throw him off early in his career, and he made some outstanding plays in this game. Obviously, the big one that you probably saw was the throw across the middle of the field to Alec Iomanner, extending the play. But yeah, like he's passing the eye test for an average 101 rookie season so far. He doesn't look bad. It's hard. It's really hard to play a quarterback in this league. But he certainly hasn't been a train wreck, right? So I think that's good, obviously. And then Alec Iomanner, another draft steal that like we definitely saw coming. We're doing a pretty good job at least like identifying who the draft steals were this year. Xavier Watts, Alec Iomanner, some of these calls, Scatabo, like some of these guys are really playing well. Iomanner no different, and he's doing all the same stuff he did at Stanford. He's making tough catches. He had a nice back shoulder connection with Cam Ward. He has a helmet catch, like beautiful throw from Ward over the shoulder, David Tyree helmet catch type of deal. He had the touchdown working in scramble drill with Cam Ward. He looks the part. He looks like a guy that probably should have gone in the second round. But apparently there was, medical concerns with him that popped up a few days before the draft, and Tennessee rolled the dice on him, and thank God they did, because they needed a possession receiver here, right? Because that's not really Calvin Ridley. Tennessee's building towards some stuff. They'll be an interesting team to continue talking about throughout the year. And then Our last game here is going to be the Carolina Panthers at the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona climbs to 2-0 here, defeating my number 32 and number 31 ranked teams in my power rankings here. So much bigger test here against San Francisco. Excited for that game this week. But yeah, Arizona's defense dominant early in this game. Jonathan Gannon came out and was just bringing the heat. Like Bryce Young and this Panthers team have really struggled against the blitz for the majority of their time here. They started to get better at it late last season, but Gannon really tested them early. They get the defensive touchdown early and another 3-and-out, just sending it. Carolina not having answers. They get the lead early, and then, they just kind of carried on from them. They kind of just maintain the status quo. They build up a lead and then kind of, played it a little bit closer to the belt to sustain it. And then it allowed Carolina to kind of come back later in this game. But I do think overall, like we talked about this Cardinals defense being one of the more improved units this season. And so far, like I think they've certainly risen to that of like a good, solid defense. Obviously the scheming from Gannon has been impressive these last 2 years, but now you're getting that on top of like actually having defensive talent. So like the defensive line is starting to show through where you can rush with 4 and get some pressure. You can stop the run a little bit better, which they did a pretty good job, especially in the first half at doing. But they are dealing with some pretty bad injuries in the secondary. Garrett Williams especially, he goes down with a knee injury, and we haven't gotten word on that. It certainly didn't feel good when it happened. But like he's one of the underrated players in the league, frankly. So awaiting word on that. I think I saw they put him on IR with potential to return this season. So we'll see who steps into that role. I mean, I would be interested if like they take maybe like Dadrion Taylor Demerson and use him as that slot corner. Yeah, it'll be curious because like he is such a linchpin for their defense and the way they do things. Like they'll take him from the slot and drop him into a post, like deep zone coverage. They blitz him all the time. He's a huge impact in the run defense. That would be a huge loss if he's out for an extended period of time. So they're losing some bodies in the secondary, but overall, like the improvements on the D-line are definitely lifting the floor of this defense. And then offensively, I felt better about the offense after watching it. Like, I think Kyler actually played pretty well in this game. I know there's a lot of people down on Kyler right now, and I think I've kind of gotten sucked into that as well. And he's certainly not like a top 10 great quarterback or anything. And he threw a really bad pick late that kind of opened the door back up for Carolina. That it was one really bad play that Kyler had in this game where he's trying to extend the play and rolling left. He gets hit while he's thrown and ends up getting intercepted. Like, just throw it out of bounds, kick the field goal. Like, you don't need to do that, obviously. But at the same time, the only reason they were in the red zone there was because of an unbelievable scramble from Kyler Murray where he gets out of a sack and then outruns the defense for like 30 yards. Like, just one of the better scrambles we'll see on the season, frankly. That was the only reason they were in that part of the field to begin with. So if that just neutrals out and then you just watch all the other Kyler Murray plays, he had a pretty damn good game. And he threw a touchdown to Michael Wilson that was like a perfectly precise anticipation throw into the red zone over the middle of the field. Like, that is not the type of throw that Kyler usually gets credit for, is like seeing a tight window opportunity over the middle of the field. And he nailed it. He was attacking the middle of the field. There were multiple times he hit in-breaking receivers in this game. He hits Trey McBride up the seam on a really good schemed up play by Drew Petzing, which, like, I know Cardinals fans are mad at him and all this stuff, but they had a great play where they anticipate cover 2. They run a wheel route from, I don't know, somebody in motion, probably Greg Dortch or somebody, motions from left to right, and that kind of speed motion snap. So he's sprinting at the snap, and then he attacks the honey hole up the sideline. It was cover 2. The deep safety, Nick Scott, ends up having to get width to prevent the honey hole shot. And then that leaves Trey McBride running a seam straight up the middle where the hook zone linebacker ends up letting him go, Christian Roseboom. And you end up with Trey McBride just like wide open over the middle of the field. But Kyler hits that. Great schemed up play. And honestly, like Marvin Harrison let Kyler down in this game. He did. He had a really just bad drop. Great play by Kyler, frankly. He steps left of pressure, doesn't fluster though, stays in the pocket, just steps left, hits Marv on a comebacking route, and it just goes right through Marv's hands and hits him in the face mask. It's like, all right, Marv, like what's going on? And then Kyler also threw a fade to Marv that, man, like, dude, I thought you put on 15 pounds to be physical, and Marv is running this goal line fade, and he's just waiting for the ball to come to him, and Mike Jackson gets his hand in there and breaks it up. It's like, dude, go get the damn football. This is what you did at Ohio State. Like, they continue to not be able to connect on those goal line fades, and this one was totally like, it was a good ball by Kyler. Marv's got to do more to catch that football. You can't just let it come to you. Like, that speaks for itself. So, want to see Marvin Harrison play well, but I actually felt pretty good about the Cardinals' offense coming out of this. Now, granted, it was against the Panthers' defense, but I'm very much looking forward to Arizona. You know, weeks 1 and week 2 were kind of an extension of their preseason against the Saints and Panthers. Now you got a huge divisional game coming up against the Niners. And even though it's Mac Jones, that's a lucky break to not have to deal with full force Niners. It's still going to be a legitimate test for them. So looking forward to that, especially going against that Niners defense. And I do think they're going to need some more from Marvin Harrison if they're going to win that game. But as for Carolina, I also felt better about Carolina having watched this game, which is probably just hopium for me as a Bryce Young fan, but I'm just calling it like I see it. And, they have a horrible start in this game. They get 0 blitzed. Bryce gets hit immediately, and he fumbles, and they're behind already from a touchdown. And then their next drive gets killed on another 0 blitz. That's the number one thing for Carolina. They have to find better answers for the blitz. They've struggled with this in the past. They found answers to it last year. Last year, the main answer was Adam Thielen running corner routes and Bryce throwing anticipation throws, laying it out there for Adam Thielen to go get it. And we saw that in this game late, the last play of the game, second to last play of the game, I think, or down, on that last drive. They're trying it to, what is it, Bryson Tremaine? I don't even know who the hell this guy is. Like, how the hell, can I just tangent for a second? And he played well in this game, Bryson Tremaine. But, like, think about what we said about the Panthers. It's like, how are they going to keep all these wide receivers? You got T-Mac, you got Leggett, you got Coker, you got Thielen, you got Hunter Renfrow, you got Jimmy Horn Jr., you got Moore, right? David Moore. Like, it was like, how are they going to keep all these wide receivers? And then we're here in week 2, and Bryson Tremaine is getting 4 targets. Like, okay, how did we get here so quickly? But anyway, Tremaine otherwise, caught my attention. He's kind of this lengthy, intermediate, like, weapon, I guess. But anyway, they tried to throw that same corner route from the slot that they always throw to Adam Thielen last year, and they're just not on the same page. Hopefully Jalen Coker can do some of that stuff when he gets back healthy. But look, if you want an answer for how to beat the blitz, Arizona, your answer is T-Mac. Just either put him in the slot and have him run those routes, or run a back shoulder, or just throw it up to him on a go ball. I don't care. If you get 0 blitzed, Bryce, whatever route McMillan is running, throw it to him. Even if it's short of the sticks, because he has shown to consistently make guys miss. You guys, T-Mac looks insane. I understand I'm biased because I had him as a blue chip prospect, which was a top 4 player in this draft, and I just slammed the Patriots for not drafting this guy. This dude looks like the perfect wide receiver. He's 6'4". His hands are absurd. He has two of the best non-catches of the season already. He made a one-hand catch, like leaping over a guy, and just ran out of space to get his feet down. but he catches everything, always has. He runs crazy sharp routes for a big guy. He's been awesome after the catch. He's showing speed. Like, he catches an in-breaking route and outruns the defense for like 40 yards in this game. He had 10 targets in this game. He should be getting 15 targets a game in this offense. And I kind of am optimistic that we're going that way, just because, like, I don't know how you watch the tape and say anything other than, if we don't do everything we possibly can to just funnel this offense through him at all times, we're fucking up if we're the Panthers. So we'll see where that goes. But especially in terms of your answer against the blitz, like, to me, you have an easy solution to your biggest problem right now. It's just a matter of being a good coach, recognizing it, and going out and doing it. Like, you should be able to have so many checks and options for how to use this guy when he gets one-on-one opportunities, especially because if he's covered, you're still in a pretty good chance, if you just put a good ball on him, that he's going to catch it. And if you got to throw it short of the sticks on a 3rd and 8, like, he's got a good chance of making that guy miss and getting the first down. So, got to see more T-Mac to beat the blitz. But if they can beat the blitz, I think, like, Carolina's offense is going to be just fine. I think Bryce actually settled in and played really well as this game went on. Didn't panic after falling down behind. Still took, like, picking this zone apart, made the right throws. I'm not saying Bryce is, like, on a trajectory to be a superstar quarterback right now. Like, he clearly has issues, and he has some moments with his pocket presence where it's just, like, way too inconsistent in that sense. Like, there's times where he extends plays and makes a lot of stuff happen with his feet, but there's times where, like, he just gets swallowed up in the pocket, or, like, the last play of the game is the perfect example, where it's 4th and 5, and you got a chance to go win the game after you recover an onside kick. He drops back really far, and then all he has to do is step back up, and he has a perfectly clean platform to throw from on a 4th and 5, but he just drifts back, invites the edge rushers both into the play, and then he tries to do the whole, like, rope-a-dope, run around in the backfield forever to find a throw. It's like, this all could have been avoided if you just stepped up in the pocket. So it certainly isn't perfect, but I do feel better about the offense. And the defense, it's going to have trouble this year, but they're at least getting something from the D-line. They're not getting gashed in the run game. At least this week they didn't. It's good to have Derek Brown back. Like, Prince Emmanuel had some pressures in this game, and J.C. Horn is out there. So, like, it's better at least defensively, but they have a game against the Falcons this week that will be fascinating to me. But I'm still intrigued by the Panthers, but they're kind of on thin ice in terms of being horrible right now. So that is going to do it for this week's recap episode. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I will see you guys on Friday for our Week 3 preview show with Garrett from the Football Analysis channel. That was really fun to kickstart that next week. Both this and that episode are being posted weekly to the audio version of the Fully Inflated Football Show. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can't always catch the video version, or you just want the audio, it's all there. Just search Fully Inflated Football wherever you get your podcasts. Other than that, if you could hit that like button on the way out here, if you are still here and have not done that, just a reminder, that would be much appreciated. And then especially for the podcast listeners, if you could leave a 5-star review, that would be greatly appreciated as well. That's really the only true way to grow the show. But I'm out of here. Thank you for listening, for watching, and we'll see you soon. Peace out.